Hello, everybody, and welcome to tonight's broadcast of the Unified PGCQ Open Qualifiers here on the Team Ambition main channel. We're going to be tracking the new Team Ambition throughout their PGOQ number 2 journey. My name is Gordo. I am joined tonight by Sulpan. And Sulpan, we've got a brand new Team Ambition roster here to take on a brand new slew of Proving Grounds opponents.
Tiny new coat of paint on this roster, man. I'm excited. We were just talking just a second ago. Personally, for me, Scary Jerry is where my eyes are drawn immediately. This guy was hyped up so much in the last CLOL tournament that just concluded. Believe Converse, which is Scary Jerry's team, took fourth and third place there. I don't think they did a third place tiebreaker. And actually just got picked up by Maryville. So not playing on the Maryville roster this PGQ though, is now over here on the Team Ambition side, and we're excited to have him.
Yeah, definitely are here. The Maryville Cup runneth over a little bit, and they're not running a B team this time around, so we get to claim Scary Jerry for ourselves here. And yeah, for anyone who's not aware, new roster going to be Crimson in the top lane, Maddie at jungle, DNA in mid, Scary Jerry at ADC, and Tsum at support. As you were saying there, Sulpan, though, you got to look at Scary Jerry, the breakout star of this past CLOL tournament. You got to say, yeah, as you said, they ended up finishing third, fourth, but a lot of known quantities always end up in the deep runs there at CLOL, but Converse ending up in top four was something that very few folks predicted, and you've got to chalk up a lot of that credit to Scary Jerry.
Yeah, it was the talk of the town, I think, almost throughout the entire bracket run that Converse made. On top of that, though, you also have to kind of consider that this is Scary Jerry's, I think, only second appearance ever in amateur. Very new to the competitive scene as a whole, still kind of adapting, and we'll have to see how well he can slot into a new roster. As well, Team Ambition's new roster has some pre-existing synergy. You have the two SLU members in Tsum and Maddie, the support and jungle, also coming in here. And we have a whole group of individuals looking to get revenge on Bay State here. SLU got knocked out 2-1. Scary Jerry's team Converse got knocked out 3-1 in the semifinals. So really gunning for Bay State here. It's actually a little bit of a rematch, and we'll have to see if the Ambition roster, which is kind of grabbing all these key pieces from different teams, can be greater than some of their individual collegiate teams in the CLOL tournament.
Yeah, going to be keeping a close eye on that Bay State revenge match. Bay State College, of course, coming in here with the same roster that they took to CLOL finals, and to have this that Venezuelan top mid solo lane duo there with Benjani and Saranok. These guys had a little bit of experience playing over in Latin America, have now come over and taken the collegiate scene by storm. DMK in the jungle, Sophist Sage at 80 carry, and Sword Blue at support. All these guys, kind of mainstays of the collegiate scene. A lot of them have not very often dipped their toes into the amateur scene, other than with Bay State last spring, where they did actually make it through that first open qualifier at 3-2, ended up falling short with a 1-3 run in the second spring OQ, and are now coming back for more at OQ number 4 after a little bit of a break.
Yeah, this is really a team that I think will thrive off the power of friendship. You have the roster that has stayed the same since the beginning, I believe, of 2022. Playing together for so long, they've built up a lot of synergy, like you mentioned. Second in CLOL, they've kind of just consistently been on an upward trend since this roster came together at the start of 2022, just placing higher and higher overall in tournaments. And we'll see, this might be the fully online Bay State really coming together to see what they can do here now in the open qualifier, with a whole lot of practice under their belt through all these other tournaments.
Yeah, and we've left out a couple of members of Team Ambition here who are going to be joining that are also super exciting. DNA at mid, veteran amateur mid laner, has made that Proving Grounds run before in 2021 spring with Dig Mirage. Maddie also going to be in that elite category of AM players who have made Proving Grounds previously. Him with Supernova in 2021 summer. These guys have gone through the whole gauntlet. They've made it to play against some of those academy teams and to compete in that big tournament at the end of the split. And that kind of veterancy and experience is going to be such a big boon here to the rookie members of the roster, Scary Jerry, Tsum, and Crimson up in the top lane, who I'm sure is sick to death of everybody talking about his brothers, but you gotta call out at least a little bit. Twin brother of Sniper, the darling of amateur himself, and brother of Viper as well, former LCS player, former Academy player, now playing in this very same tournament with No Team, who came back. We've got all three brothers playing top lane, all in the same event. Hopefully we get to see some of them face off against each other in the next couple days.
Yeah, bringing a whole new meaning to Blood Brothers. Of course, the passive got removed, but it all stays the same here on the Rift. So we'll have to see if we can get one of those really interesting matchups between the family members. But of course, we got to get some wins under our belt first here on Ambition, as I believe General Sniper, that no team roster, looking very strong on this split.
Yeah, absolutely here. And, Crimson gonna be the one coming in here with a role swap. He was playing a mid lane back in spring with Radiance. That team disbanded as the org kind of exited the amateur scene, and didn't find a team for OQ number 3. Took a little bit of a break there, and now coming back, going to be playing in the top lane this time around. And you gotta believe has the best coaches available within his own household to be able to pick up that role. But this is going to be the first real competition we've seen with Crimson as a top laner, so he's definitely going to be a big player to be keeping a look at, especially as he faces off against Bijani, who has been a very, very impressive in the laning phase, especially during C-Law. Racked himself up a whole boatload of solo kills as he made his run through that bracket with Bay State.
Yeah, just kind of talking about the matchup here in the top lane, Benjani versus Crimson. Crimson, like you said, role swapping on over, has that kind of mid lane killer instinct, bringing a lot of these more aggressive picks in the top lane. Benjani, of course, likes to run carries as well, so I wouldn't be surprised to see us get the carry versus carry matchup. But also, when Scary Jerry was at playing at his best on Converse, it was weak side top laners and then focusing all the resources the team has into the bot lane. So the question is, will this team be adapting more towards that top lane style? Is it just a flexible card that they'll switch back and forth kind of depending on the matchup? Whole lot of questions here, and with the blue side being picked actually for Team Ambition, would not be surprised to see them opt out of the counter pick and just go straight all in on Scary Jerry in the bottom lane.
Yeah, that's what I would like to see too, especially, post durability patch. We are in a late game centric world. It doesn't really support the play style that we've seen out of especially a jungler like Maddie. This is a guy who's made a lot of his career on the Olafs of the world, on playing super aggressively. He's got a whole bunch of talent games played this season. He loves to farm up and carry from the jungle. It's not to say that he can't play these other styles, but it means that he's not going to be exactly who we're looking at probably to make the big moves in this open qualifier. And it's a great opportunity to instead play towards scaling, play towards the bottom lane, and play towards what Scary Jerry showed to be really effective on while he was playing for Converse.
Yeah, the only other thing I could see kind of happening here is, I mean, there's a new pick on the table that's kind of been a big topic of conversation with this last patch, 12.12 or 12.11. I'm blanking on the exact number. But Seraphine's here. Seraphine is here in 3 different lanes, 3 different positions, can be drafted as a flex pick. Saw Scary Jerry playing her a little bit in solo queue as well. So there's a chance that we actually get that top side focus instead. And we put Scary Jerry on just this insanely powerful pick that is Seraphine.
Yeah, it's busted, really. There's not much else to say
Yeah.
there. They were trying to tune it down a little bit actually with these changes, but the extending of the root duration has not done a lot to curb the issue, and has, if anything,
Mhm.
really kind of made it worse. And she was really edging towards being one of those super powerful picks already. The duo with Senna had already kind of been established, and was already something that players were willing to pick in amateur and things like that. And now it's just completely crossed over that threshold, and it's something that I'm sure we're going to see a lot of picks and bans directed at over the course of these next couple of days. Also, bring a little bit of attention towards Tsum here at support. He might be one of the people that we see piloting that Seraphine, and he has also had, I think, a lot less experience coming into proving grounds while he's still played quite a bit of collegiate over with SLU. He played for a team called the Longest Yard in previous proving grounds events, but they never made it past open qualifiers and were kind of one of those lower teams. Same category as Scary Jerry, right? Who played with
Mhm.
Zenigma Eclipse before
Yeah.
this. There's a big kind of jump up from the teams that kind of end up in that 25 seed and below territory, where you're just kind of a group thrown together and you're going to see how well you're going to be able to perform, and being on one of these top 16 seeds that are expected to be able to make the main event. And really excited to see Tisa make that jump.
Certainly quite a bit of a difference there between those two. Got more coordinated coaches, just better overall players. You talked about the veterans being brought onto this roster as well. And kind of moving away from the discussion around collegiate, we have a whole new patch here. I mean, there are so many picks that I think that just kind of popped up. You got the Twitch Yumi, fondly now called the Tom and Jerry bot lane. Uh, a great possibility for Scary Jerry who wants those resources, right? Yumi being so powerful as well in just certain drafts could pair well with those carry top laners that we want to run maybe here with Crimson. So Ambition, I think, has such a flexible draft here. And the patch itself seems to favor these carry tops playing for late game, and then really looking for those more weak side or tanky junglers that can just help facilitate the laning phase.
Yeah, definitely going to be something we're keeping a look at there. And then some of the big meta junglers taking a little bit of a hit as well. The Jarvan going to be a little bit stronger now as they've given him a little bit of a bump up following the durability patch. The Viego going to be a little bit weaker as well. So might see a little bit of changes around there. And I do believe that Belveth is going to be enabled. Not sure if we're going to end up seeing that one come through, but the win rate, it's been ticking up and up. It would not be completely unthinkable to see somebody like Maddie want to pick up that champion.
Always a little bit risky, especially with Sejuani top stocks also on the ride, as just those champions that can lock down those melees are super, super effective at taking down Velvet. She's basically just the newest Master Yi on the Rift. With a little bit of extra pushing power with that Rift Herald take that she can do. But we're here into the draft now. Bans flying out across the board. Ahri still going to be banned out here from Team Ambition, as well as the Gangplank, which was one of those contested picks actually in the top lane. So kind of surprised they say that one banned away. Senna going to be the last ban here for Ambition, as Base State looks to lock in their last ban of this first phase.
Yeah, going to be seeing what's going to be focused there. The Seraphine notably still available and is just going to get insta-locked here by Crimson over on the side of Team Ambition. You ban away the Senna here on the blue side, but this champion is very playable without the Senna as a duo, especially following the latest round of changes. You can see it flexed up to mid lane. You can see it played as just a normal support if you get the right lane pairing with it. And they're going to be very happy to get their hands on this one first and foremost. In what is going to be, by the way, 16th versus 17th seed. Seeding wise, this is the closest matchup you're going to get in the first round. Really happy we could bring it to you here on the TA mainstream.
Yeah, no surprises here. Corki, nice, safe poke laner. Not necessarily the strongest thing against. You can get something like a double healer on the other side with the Seraphine already locked in. But I mean, Seraphine just gives you so much flexibility in your draft. We mentioned it's a three-way flex. You can send her mid, top, or bot as a carry. Whatever else you plug into this composition, you can just flex around the enemy team's picks here, and it will be the Corki Ezreal. So a whole lot of poke being brought out actually by Bay State College early on.
Yeah, they're focusing in on this Corki and this Ezreal picks that we've seen Sophist Sage and Serenok bring out before, and picks that have really risen up in this meta. I'd like to see Maddie taking up this Wukong on the tiniest of nerfs over the last couple of patches, but he's still king of the jungle. He's still certainly going to be one of those picks that you got to keep your eyes on, and still flexible to top lane as well. This is a pick that we have no idea what Crimson's top lane champion pool looks like because he hasn't really played it too much before. But you gotta keep in mind if you're Bay State College that this is a pick that could be flexed between those two lanes, and that's going to have to affect what DMK here wants to take as the counter pick if he even wants to lock in a counter pick here at all. Gwen would also be flexible between top and jungle. The Lilia, one that gets talked about a lot as a potential counter to Wukong, that can also be flexed between those two lanes. These are the kind of picks that I have my eyes on, as DNA is going to lock in a Tristana as well, but that's Fiora.
Yeah, a little bit of nerfs going towards the Fiora in this last patch, but still a very powerful split pusher in her own right. Percent true damage, just the new nice thing to have here in the durability patch. Very hard to play around as I'm looking also at Team Ambition's roster. This is 3 flex picks.
Mhm.
DNA has been playing Tristana mid lately in solo queue. Scary Jerry, of course, plays Tristana as well there in the bottom lane. I think we're getting closer. We just need like one more pick to really lock in where these guys are all going. But right now, it's so hard for Bay State College to actually drop bans because no matter where they ban, these picks seem to be flexed to that role that they're dropping bans deep into. So really just looking to ban out some very powerful picks here. The Vladimir want to disrupt some of that team fighting ability. And we'll see what they end up going for the last one here. If they really want to dive in on one role, I think it's a little bit risky. I imagine they go for just one other pick that could really disrupt this comp, something super team fight heavy here for Bay State.
Yeah, the year is 2022. You can get through your first round of draft and have nobody have any idea where anything's going. And that's certainly what Team Ambition has accomplished here. You know that at least one of Seraphine and Tristana are going to be bot lane. That's about the only thing you really know, though, for
Mhm.
sure. As the Enchanters continue to be banned away for the side of Team Ambition, that makes me feel like they're setting up to move this Seraphine into the bottom lane, either in the support or marksman position. And they just want to force Bay State onto something that's it's maybe going to be a little less of a scaling threat, but also not going to be able to bully out on this Seraphine too harshly. Now, going to be the Volibear hover for DMK. Looks like that will be locked on in, so they're going to save their they're going to save their support for the last pick counter pick.
Really interesting here. Volibear, I think, has been catching some uncalled for flack in the jungle as a bait pick. I think it's still a very strong pick. You just need to have the right lanes for it. Volibear excels at tower dives. He can disable towers early on, but also you need to make sure you're actually manipulating waves correctly to allow him to gank for you early on, because he doesn't have amazing gank power. You need to have good CC setup to let the Volibear get on into your lane. So I'm expecting now a engaged support here to help the Volibear set up, or just a whole lot of burst damage, right? That's like the two things you can do. So either shove in later on, let the Volibear get that tower dive ultimate locked in on the enemy bot lane, or something that can just set him up super early on. You need to make sure that this Volibear gets enabled, otherwise you might as well pick Udyr and just farm it out.
And with Team Ambition rounding out their draft with Nautilus, it looks like you could take the man out of the mid lane, but you can't take the mid lane out of the man there, Sulpan, as Crimson looking to play this Akali up and towards the top lane. You generally don't expect to see Seraphine or Tristana flexed up there, so we can feel pretty confident that this is going to be an Akali into Fiora lane. This is going to be aggressive. There's a
Yeah.
lot of opportunity for these champions to solo kill one another. Super exciting to watch that one play out up in the top lane. And Renata Glass going to round out the Bay State College draft. Going to be looking to play safe in the bottom lane with that Ezreal. Now, knowing that it's facing off against this hard engage opportunity with the Nautilus, probably going to be paired with the Tristana, looking for some early kills, which would put Seraphine into that mid lane.
I'm actually going to disagree with you here. I think it's the Seraphine Nautilus bot lane with that crazy CC chain they can now set up, and it's a Tristana mid here. Kind of depends on what I think DNA wants to take matchup wise. I would kind of say that Tristana likes to generally favor playing into a mage that can't just jump away like Corki can, because he'll smash the W cooldown every single time that Tristana tries to jump in aggressively. But I think in this case, with how everything looks, I think that you can play the Seraphine bot lane and not be at any kind of risk. You'll always have your Nautilus to help you out, bail you out in any kind of trouble. You're playing into Renata Glass and Ezreal, so it's not like you're got a whole lot of risk there. You can just heal through the poke. I like the look of sending the Seraphine bot lane, right? With this composition, at least personally.
Yeah, that's super interesting actually. I see what you're saying with the CC chain for sure. So we'll see how they end up actually doling out these picks. The fact that you can't know for sure,
Yeah.
even with all five chance locked in on either side, that's kind of the underrated
Hmm.
flexibility, right? Because if you don't know for sure, you got to lock your runes at some point, my man.
Yeah.
So it's really gets a lot more difficult to actually play against when you have to set at least what your early defensive runes are going to be is Serenok, and you don't know if it's going to be Tristana or Seraphine. You take very different setups depending on which one that's going to be. So a tough situation for him to determine how he's going to play out this lane on this Corki. He's going to have to stay safe regardless of what his picks are going to be. So he wants to scale up and be this big poke threat later into the game. We'll see how Team Ambition chooses to pressure him and where they really want to focus their efforts. Because you got to wonder if they want to try to play towards the Nautilus spot lane and make plays happen to the 2v2, or if they want to unlock the Nautilus and have him roam around and influence lanes like top that certainly have the potential to be a whole lot more swingy.
Yeah, I imagine we're going to see a whole lot of topside focus this game. For one, Bay State College has opted towards more of a 1-3-1 style composition, right? They got the Fiora in one lane, they have the Corki with the package in the other side lane, and then a nice, very safe trio in mid with the Volibear as a tank, and then Renata and Ezreal can both easily get away from any kind of engagement. On the other side, of course, Ambition's got kind of more of the straightforward team fight composition. Akali, I think, wants to push and then try and make it to these fights and try and flank someone. But the top lane matchup, Crimson really getting called out here by Ben Johnny. First game in competitive as a top laner. We'll see what they can do here in this very volatile matchup in the top side.
Yeah, volatile is certainly almost underselling it there a little bit. Like these guys, especially given what kinds of players they are, Crimson coming from that mid lane background. I used to play a lot of mid lane myself,
Hmm.
and when you start moving up towards the top, you have so much more space to play with. It's really tempting to just get in there and start to really throw down when you're used to having so much little space to work with, and you're playing something like this Akali, and suddenly you have the whole long lane to work with. Really tempting to get in there and start brawling. And we already talked about Bajani in his Sealaw run. was a big 1 versus 1 player. You know, he got a lot of solo kills coming up into. I think I was rewatching the finals, and I think the number was 8 solo kills he got in the bracket
Wow.
coming up into that spot. That's a big number to have at that level of play. So he's
Mhm.
definitely a player that likes to throw down when he can, and he's got a great opportunity to do it here up against the Akali matchup.
Yeah, good chance to really prove yourself as a top lane, a newly made top lane main here for Crimson. See if they can do just that. As I think, again, I want to redirect my attention to the jungle matchup here. You have the Wukong, you have the Volibear, both junglers that want to create that early action. I imagine we get a double bot side start this game. They're going to try and match each other's clears. You might actually see some kind of cheesy pathing, especially from the Wukong in this matchup. When you're starting on blue side, bot side, you go red Raptors Gromp. You can have one of the earliest level 3s possible for a jungle. That could very quickly get Maddie into top lane. It's a little harder, I think, for Volibear to be top at the same time if Wukong opts for that clear. So Maddie has an opportunity here to set up top lane super early, but we'll have to see if the Volibear on the other side can try and match this Wukong, either just disrupt the top gank, counter gank, or just warn off the Fiora. They also have the option here where rather than going for um, any kind of like standard jungle clear, if Ambition actually splits the map top side versus bot side, they're really at a massive advantage, especially with the level 1 through the Nautilus, because you can just stick your Wukong on the top side the entire game. Seraphine and Nautilus will get pushed in, so they'll be nice and safe underneath the tower. I think it's a great setup for them if they can find the way in, but they really need to make level 1 work here.
Yeah, it's actually really funny, Sulpan, that you bring up Maddie going for creative paths here, because when we were on this very stream back in PGOQ number 3, the former Team Ambition roster was playing up against RGB Esports, which had Maddie on it
Oh yeah.
in the last open qualifier. And Maddie in that game got his team off to a super early lead and actually ended up taking down Team Ambition with some of that creative pathing. He went for the full, on blue side, he went for the full red side clear into the bot gank, which is usually, you know, a riskier play. It sets you up for so much potential to fall behind if the gank doesn't actually work out because you have no camps to go back to and you're already on the wrong side of the
Yeah.
map. And it opens you up to getting invaded and having your camp stolen away. But, you know, Maddie read the situation correctly and was able to pull that play off. I'm excited to see him bring out some of that creative pathing under the Team Ambition banner this time.
Yeah, it's certainly good to be on the flip side of that one, is those super surprising jungle ganks that really just throw off any lane state, any kind of advantage that you're trying to build for yourself early on, can completely throw off the entire game plan. It just changes the tempo of what you're going for as a team if someone pulls off a jungle brat that you weren't expecting like that. And so Maddie certainly being on this roster, very exciting to watch. And I'm glad you brought up that, because I'm now really now I got expectations in my mind, man. Maddie better pull off something interesting here. I'm keeping an eye on him.
Yeah, definitely got some expectations coming in for this brand new TA roster. Going to have to face off against plenty of teams who have a lot more experience together, like this Bay State team, and you're going to have to make up for that with individual talent and with good team building and coaching here. That's what I'm hoping to see out of Team Ambition in their first 2 matches of the OQ today. We're going to throw it to a quick break while we get loaded onto the Rift for our first game of the night. Be back in just a few seconds to see if Bay State or Team Ambition are going to start off this event 1-0.
Support system on the rear.
Face front, come say so.
Hey, back doors all clear.
Chain tight, can't play no.
Well fed, we eatin'.
The motto is to push for it, the ops stay too wuss for it. Like matter of fact, we creepin', now we sneaking. Enemy highs, we be seeking. Lurk at the waters and bushes, oh man. Cold eyes, we deepin'. All of you die, one at a time. Those are the facts, we don't throw dice. Ready to fire, ready or not, we letting it grind. Bang, 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 bang. Wake up, we want war. Y'all know what time it is. Paint red on this ground floor. All we throw is fists. To the core we lit. Rain down abyss. Set it up like this.
Set it off like this. Set it off like. Set it off like this. Set it off like. Set it off like this. Set it off like. Set it off like this. Burn it up, burn it up.
Set it off like this. Set it off like. Set it off like this. Set it off like. Set it off like this. Set it off like. Set it off like this. Burn it up, burn it up.
Too many enemies, too many enemies, too many enemies. Yeah, too many enemies, too many enemies, too many enemies, too many enemies. Yeah.
조금 밑에 모여봤자 니니 이 몸한텐 형 이겨
살려줄게요 소 가능하다면 안 해주면 내 심장이나 상처. Yeah, what? Wait. 연구만 있어 잘 그려려면 안 해주면 바로 매부 비상형. Go riders, go riot, gasoline lighters, more fire. Ski tires, blow up dynamite, need more wires. 너의 샤이 드리고 검은 쭉 갈까 일어나면 그렇게 만들어 뼈와를.
Go riders, go riot, gasoline lighters, more fire. Skid tires, blow up dynamite, need more wires. 너의 샤이들이 검어하면 조용할 거야 일어나면 그렇게 만들어 평화를. Set it off like this, set it off like set it off like this, set it off like set it off like this, set it off like set it off like this. Burn it up. Set it off like this, set it off like set it off like this, set it off like set it off like this, set it off like set it off like this. Burn it up. Take no.
Welcome back, everybody. Tonight's broadcast of the PGCQ Open Qualifiers. Number 2, Team Ambition is taking on Bay State College here in our first game of the night. And immediately we can see TA moving towards the bottom side. They're going to find Sophist Sage here, who is going to be forced to start that Essence shift to get himself out of dodge.
A little bit wacky here already early on. Nice shenanigans getting dropped. As nice move actually up here from Dragon here on the Volley Bear to get some vision on this blue side. So we're going to see if Ambition will be able to clear this out, or if they'll just be forced to give over the blue buff, as looks like they're already rotating out of this one. Benji, though, taking some very early aggressive positioning, potentially, to try and get some damage off on Crimson very early on.
Yeah, and that ward kill being given over to DNA as well will net him that level 2 just a tiny bit sooner. See if he catch Serenok unawares with that opportunity. Been bestowed over to him. Starting off that Doran's Blade, so looking to maybe play with a little bit higher damage in this lane, looking to really threaten that Corki early on. Has taken the heal as well, instead of something like the teleport, so really wants to bring in that pressure. Serenok with the exhaust, acknowledging that, and trying to make sure that he's not going to be too easily dove on, and will also keep him safe from the Akali later on.
actually really like the placement of this ward, the division that Bay State College got here. Getting it on the Wolves there tells you which direction Wukong's doing, how many camps they did. Oh man, that's a nice early trade here already from Benji. But knowing exactly what direction the Wukong's going here can affect how your lanes are going to end up playing out. So depending on whether they see this Wukong at 2 minutes or 3 minutes means, or will tell the Fiora what she needs to do in this lane.
Yeah, and there's that level 2 from DNA coming through. Doesn't need the 7th minion to be able to get it, so has that moment of power over Serenok to get a little bit of a chunk in. Tsum keeps hooking onto Sword Blue here, seems to have landed 2 of them already, so chunking that character down to about half HP. We'll be waiting for a couple more levels before Scary Jerry can really be super scary with the abilities here, but that's another nice dredge line onto Sophist Sage. Tsum keeps landing these, but being stuck at level 1 it makes you a little unfavored in these fights, so they're going to have to play it out safe until they can get those levels in their pocket.
Certainly hurts a little bit. We'll get a little bit of that HP back through the level, luckily, as Demon Brand, like you mentioned with that early level 2, certainly getting the push advantage here in the mid lane. Just something that Tristana generally does, but especially when you give over the early level 2, able to get such an early shove here and already going for a recall. Looking to grab a very early advantage here in this lane.
Yeah, and that priority going to open up the window for Maddie to maybe get a little something done. Vajani's already developed himself an early lead over this Akali, and you know he's planning to throw down the whole time. He's opted to take no teleport, going for the flash ignite on this Fiora, so he really wants to punish the freshly lane swapped top laner here from Team Ambition. He wants to give him an unwarm welcome up in that top lane to, hey, it's not so simple. Just take your role swap over here. We're gonna be very punishing to those who may be a little bit less experienced. And you can see he pulled that out even right at the level 1, waiting in that extra bush to get the level 1 jump out and get some of that early damage in. Tsum makes another trade happen. Sophist Sage going to be using the Arcane Shift to get out.
So I want to point out again that with that ward that spotted out the Wukong, or didn't spot it out rather, thanks to the timing of it, Benji was able to place down their ward right as it was expiring, so right when that gank opportunity would have opened up. So it's a nice way to just continue to allow yourself to play aggressive in this top lane, especially like you mentioned, flash ignite, no teleport. You have to be very safe, but at the same time, push your advantage here in the top.
Yeah, nice trade there in the bottom lane from Scary Jerry and Tsum. Chunks both targets to about half HP. Does mean that they will be able to force the recall out there and already building themselves up tiny little CS lead. This will be a good opportunity for them to crash in the wave, get an early recall off. Sophist Sage does end up using that teleport, make sure he can catch the wave. He is going to do just that, so Scary Jerry will likely need to match that unless they decide to stick around.
And again, here, another ward spotting out Wukong. As soon as they didn't see him go top lane, they can calculate that he's going to go for the reset. They get the timer down, they get the ward right on top of him to know that he's going for farm rather than going for a lane. So again, I'm just like looking at Bay State's college tracking of Maddie here in this early game. So incredibly effective at keeping every single lane safe, and we might now just get our first gank here with Dragon going towards the top lane.
Ooh, Crimson going to face check here, going to have to go for the Shuriken flip away and immediately stealths. Great counter to the Volibear there. You gotta be able to target somebody to stun him. Crimson's going to be able to very easily avoid that gank from Dragonman Kim.
Holly is immune this time in the Shroud, able to escape from Dragon there. Nice heads up play to stay alive. Always gotta play a little bit more cautiously when your lane's pushing like this, and trying to get the crash off here, but Benji does also have the opportunity to find the freeze and just continue to stall out here against the Akali and really force Crimson to overextend without having the flash.
With these pings coming through in the bottom lane, there has been another recall matched in the bottom lane. Scary Jerry notably did not use the teleport. We'll see if they can take advantage of that situation at any point. It does also give them a little flexibility to play aggressively in this bottom lane. And right away, we're going to start seeing some trades there onto Sword Blue, getting chunked out. Sophist Sage taking a bit of damage as well. And Scary Jerry doesn't need to care very much on 2 different fronts here as they go in for another hook. Sword Blue going to be forced to flash away, but the Ignite already ticking down. Scary Jerry wants to pick this one up with a high note. Sword Blue will res himself, but he will burn down. And first blood goes to Scary Jerry in the bottom lane.
Sword Blue there just going for trades, I feel like without a couple key cooldowns in the pocket. Early on, tagging up the Nautilus, looking to try and get something started with those snares, but unfortunately it just, it was in melee range, so Tsum just drops the snare, holds the hook, and then uses the hook after all the cooldowns are out. Sword Blue just gets a little bit too aggressive there and goes down for it.
And this is what we saw from Scary Jerry and Sealol too. This is really what was the clips that were circulating on Twitter and stuff of this guy, where these lane trades, these big kind of skill shot lands, flash forwards on picks like the Ezreal to get the early kills in the laning phase. He pulls it off here with Tsum in the bottom lane to get the early kill onto the Seraphine, a pick that you normally are thinking about scaling for mid and late game. Does get onto the board super early here. Will end up being a dragon pickup for Bay State, but certainly going to be happy with that advantage early on here. Serenok going aggressively onto DNA. That's a nice hook from Tsum again on the Nautilus, but the follow-up's just not quite available. He used the explosive shot on the minion wave. They will need to back away. Tsum now going to get spotted by the handshake. Gets pulled back in. DMK is over the wall, has access to the Stormbringer. Maddie is there for the backup, but is still only level 5. Here comes Serenok as well on the other side. Stormbringer comes through, gonna maul onto Maddie's clone. Maddie will be able to escape, though. Tsum has to expend the flash, but will escape with his life. Contest now on this red buff. Maddie doesn't want to give it up, but has to pay some respect over to the Volibear and a level advantage. Teleport now from Scary Jerry. This is where the difference ends up being made for not having spent that one up early on, and it does secure Maddie's red buff.
Talk about domino effects. So all this starts off of Demon Brand walking to the dragon to try and check it out and make sure that they weren't... Oh, got a bit of an engage here, though. Cyclone, not going to find it.
Trying to set up for DNA. Doesn't quite land it there. Instead, going to allow them to just walk on out. That is Cyclone blown for nothing, but, DMK also had to use the Stormbringer, so a pretty even trade all around.
Yeah, so the domino effect. Demon goes towards the dragon and try and deny the ability of Bay State to take that. Does initially push them off, but doesn't have any vision on it, so walks back maybe a little bit too early back to lane, which results in Tsum looking for the roam to mid. A nice hook engage and everything, but because we were just now finishing up the dragon, it let them also roam back into mid, and then the numbers were uneven for such a long time, so that it just led to this crazy long fight as a direct result of Bay State just playing very intelligently around vision in that dragon pit.
Definitely does pay off big time there, as they are now setting up for this Rift Herald. They will be able to claim it for Maddie still early enough to where those turret plates are going to be available. And Serenok getting chunked out pretty low there in the mid lane. Not going to have access to that teleport, so really going to find that this damage is pretty sticky. And with 0 health, 0 mana, Rift Herald down, and facing off against Tristana in lane, his turret's in a lot of risk. Sword Blue is up here, but DNA doesn't care. He's going all in against Serenok here, wants to try to make the play happen, but now that he's in a 1 versus 3, realizes he has to flash away. Here comes DMK for the chase down. That's going to be a nice buster shot to create some more distance, but he doesn't have the jump quite yet. He can't get away, and DMK going to claim himself that kill.
Tier 2 boots coming in clutch there, able to just run him down. Lucidity boots are so incredibly cheap, and they will let you catch up to that Tristana, despite the buster shot, despite the flash. Demon Brand just could not create enough space to get that second W off and get over a wall. So well played, nice gank setup here, and Serenok cool under pressure. Didn't even burn the flash, just knew that the exhaust would be enough to stop the damage from Demon Brand Arc.
Yeah, a little bit of over-aggression there is going to punish DNA's attempt there in the middle lane. Gonna have to cool it down a little bit. This Tristana has a little bit of a dip in the mid game. She's super strong early on when you have the full burst combo available. She's super strong in the late game when you've got all the levels and you've got that immense range to rely upon. The mid game, you end up dipping a little bit, and now that they've ended up giving up their first kill, DNA is really going to have to be conscious of that fact. Just looking to tone it down a little bit, build out the CS lead wherever possible, but maybe not overforce their hand.
Nice look here towards the bottom lane. Not going to find anything just yet. Tsum playing maybe a little bit more reserved now on the Nautilus. So they have this level advantage over the on Glass, that ultimate not available for Sword Blue just yet. So they could try and look for something, but I think just being happy to play it out safe here in the bottom lane and doing whatever they can to let Crimson be the carry of this game.
Yeah, now DNA finding a free full trade onto Serenok here. Serenok threatening with the package as Crimson going all in, committing with the ultimate here. Now they're fighting, breaking down in the bottom lane as well, all across the map here. Sophist Sage, though, fully caught out. Tsum's going to be able to pick up that kill. Crimson now chunking Bajani pretty low. Doesn't end up going for the perfect execution, but will end up with a health lead as a result, and does appear to have blown the Flash and Ignite out of Bajani, so gonna be a Summoner Spell lead to Crimson. DNA, though, getting collapsed on once again here, going to go for the rocket jump, goes for the Buster Shot again, but can't stop the stun, and now the dive coming through from DMK. Stormbringer turns off the bottom lane turret and will secure that kill for Bay State, but meanwhile, Scary Jerry and Maddie pushing in the bottom lane, secure first turret for Team Ambition.
This is fairly good for Team Ambition as well. They can now rotate this Nautilus and Seraphine back into the mid lane and allow Demon Brand Arc to just farm it out here in bot. I think they may even want to try and rotate the lanes here a little bit and maybe even opt to instead send Seraphine Nautilus towards top lane. They do have the Akali recalling, so that now would be a great time to do that, but it seems like they're just happy to keep these standard lane assignments, so will be the Seraphine Nautilus towards mid. Oh no, I was right. Here we go. Demon Brand will be going towards top lane, Akali towards mid for now, and will eventually be catching those waves in bottom lane. I like this setup because it will allow Akali to roam into mid later on and look for flank kills if they can establish vision control here towards this mid to bot kind of stretch of land.
Yeah, it's looking like they are going to throw Crimson into that bottom lane for now. He will have access to that teleport here pretty soon if it does end up being necessary. But you got to believe that the next objective on everyone's mind is going to be that dragon. Ping's already coming on through as Maddie is the first one to the party. And with priority in mid and a couple of extra members, they're going to start it up.
Yeah, I like the look here. They got the shove. They're doing everything just kind of like textbook here for now. Team Ambition got the tower bot. Now look for the play here towards Dragon, but it's a flash for forward blue.
Yeah, they are going to be able to secure the Dragon first and foremost, and that's a big Cyclone on the 4 members. The follow-up with the Encore, not going to be quite as nice, though. Only lands on a 1 target. Crimson, though, in the middle of everybody, looking for the perfect execution. Doesn't land it onto Sophist Sage, but a nice Shuriken flip to close out the kill onto the Ezreal to 1-for-1 so far. But now the depth charge landing onto Dragon Min Kim. They are going to chase him the rest of the way, trying to get the CC through. Dredge line going to land, and now the full combo from Crimson to chunk out onto that bear. It's going to be a double kill for Scary Jerry off the copied high note, picks up that extra kill onto Renata Glass while they're at it. That's going to be 2 more kills to Team Ambition.
Unfortunately, in the top lane, there was a solo kill. Demon Brand does go down to Benji here in the top side. So it's a bit of a lead here for Bay State, and they're getting on the right carry. But again, Dragon being given over, a few kills being given over, and some big plays coming up from Scary Jerry. It's sort of a net neutral here across the map.
Dragon does end up coming in for Team Ambition, so they will be happy with that one. But yeah, DNA really struggling in these solo lanes now. Got really bullied by the Volibear early on, and now Bajani finds himself an angle for those solo kills we were talking about. He hasn't been able to find it up against Crimson, but with the Tristana in his lane, he finds his mark.
It's going to be a tough one. Now looking kind of towards the top side, the question is, do they really want to send Demon Brand back into the top lane against the Fiora? Does have Flash now available, so could still play the side lane, but looks like they're just opting to instead try and get some more farm on this Tristana. You did see in that last fight, they were struggling for sustained damage, trying to find a few more picks as they continued to chase against Bay State College. With the Tristana in the fight, once she has a few items in her belt, the damage will certainly be there, but it's going to be quite a bit of farm. No Kraken Slayer available just yet even, so a whole lot of farming ahead and on the docket for Demon Brand Arc.
Yeah, and it is the supportive Seraphine. You know, there's 2 different schools of thought you can go for with the Seraphine. Whether it's support or farming, you can go for the support build, even if you're farming, and you can go for the damage build as well, where you go for that Leandri's Torment and try to set up for a little bit of extra damage. This time around, going for the supportive build, but maybe regretting that a little bit because of how much gold Scary Jerry has found in his pockets. You know, 3 kills, 2 assists, well ahead of the curve here, and maybe wishes a little bit that he could have been converting that into damage, but still, the support items and getting them early on also going to be hugely impactful for these mid-game fights.
It will certainly enable Maddie and Crimson to just be super, super aggressive. When you have these heals just backing you up, the CC as well, you feel so much more powerful as these melee carries, and you might have a fight here in the mid lane as teleport does come through.
Nice flank hook from Tsum here, turns into a full combo onto everybody from that big encore there. Going to be 2 kills coming through into Maddie, and now DNA creating just enough distance. Flash forward from Serenok makes the trade happen, but he gets picked up for a triple kill by Maddie. Now DMK turning this around. Tsum taking a couple extra turret shots, will have to back out at a fairly low health bar. Scary Jerry, though, continues to rain out the heals, continues to rain out the damage, and keeps his teammates healthy. They are going to back away happy with the 3-for-1.
Absolutely amazing dive setup here. Rift Herald takes down tower. The teleport did finish channeling there to allow the carry to teleport to that tower, but I mean, everything else was went perfectly for him here. This dive was just so effective. Rift Herald goes down, they get all the autos they need on this tower. It was Sophist Sage here teleporting on in, but check out this dive setup. Maybe a little bit overzealous here from the Corki. Great setup from Tsum to hit the double knockup. Wukong follows up, Seraphine ult follows up, and even though the Redana Glass ult comes out, they've just dropped too much damage, able to clean up these kills. Demon Brand Arc almost does a perfect job kiting out, didn't expect the flash forward there from the Corki, but it was a great fight setup here from Ambition. They do everything they need to under this dive to lock down multiple members, and again, good vision, good crowd control setup, and good crowd control chain to find themselves a team fight victory.
Yeah, my boy DNA cannot catch a break this game, even in the last fight, which was played very well all around by Team Ambition. You're going to be taking a 3-for-1 any day of the week. He does end up getting traded back onto, and now getting caught once again by Bajani. Does have Crimson for the backup, but this 2 versus 2, you're a little bit lacking in the health bar department. Sword Blue getting caught in the topside jungle is going to be an easy pickup for Maddie, but now Crimson going to have to create some distance, gets out at a sliver of HP, and it's going to be a trade back from DNA. Now DMK looking for the charge on the top lane, will be able to pick up a double kill as he finishes off Crimson, but the remaining 3 members are back from Team Ambition, and they want some revenge. Scary Jerry goes on a rampage as he finishes off his next kill. It's a 2-for-2 all around in the top lane. Call it 3 if you count Sword Blue getting caught by the red buff.
Yeah, certainly doesn't exactly feel even, though. You do have some good split push happening down here towards the mid and bot side. Sophist Sage will take down mid. You'll also have Serenok take down that bot lane tier 1. But now these teams need to reset. Everyone's going to be moving again towards this Infernal Dragon. And you actually still have Scary Jerry, does have teleport, just shoving another wave towards top. Might be able to pull one member up here, but looks like the rest of the members have collapsed, and this should just be a dragon going over to base state.
Yeah, Maddie is showing up here. Could look for a sneaky little steal over the wall. Jumps over, but can't quite get there in time. DMK was in base. You know, if he had just cloned himself over the wall, he might have been able to snag that one away. Takes a little bit too long, though, to get over with the blast cone.
Yeah, certainly possible. Wanted to save the clone to be able to escape. There's always the risk of a jungler is trying to calculate, do I really want to go for the miracle steal, which is like kind of a 50-50, even though you're not playing against a jungler. Corki rocketed in time. But also, like, do you really want to die for this dragon? If you end up going down there, what does it do to your team? That team can kind of set up across the map in the 4 versus 5. There's a lot of risks that go into that. So Maddie playing it safe this time around, but that's base state, picking up another dragon. Won't have that luxury of playing it safe if they manage to hit that soul point.
Sure here, that's going to be a nice snare landed in the mid lane, but follow-up's not quite there, and 3 support items done for Scary Jerry, by the way. How much gold they have funneled into this Seraphine is crazy. He's got the Staff of Flowing Water, he's got the Redemption, he's going to be able to provide so much support to his teammates in these fights and give them so many extra stats, both in the health department as well as a little bit of AP and CDR coming in from that Staff of Flowing Water.
Ooh. Sophist Sage wants to steal away the Raptors, will get quite a few there. Now Scary Jerry hurting. Not going to be the engage option that Dragonkin was looking for, though.
Well, not quite yet. Tsum wants to take a fight anyway. Locks down onto Dragon Min Kim. Handshake going to disengage him, but now here comes Maddie. They're going to throw out that hostile takeover to dissuade the further engage. Team Ambition will be having to back away as a result of that one. Tsum still looking for blood, though. Has been so aggressive on this Nautilus. This time, though, not quite paying off.
Yeah, you still want to get out of that one. They heard the bells of the Corki package ring. They've got Crimson there in the bottom lane, does have teleport, but would rather not burn it for a fight that's more of a coin toss, especially in the jungle. You get Corki package down on the corridor. Very large risk here for Team Ambition to throw away on kind of a fight that was really just over random bits of jungle monsters. So I like the look here to just go for the full disengage. Managed to get everyone out nice and safely, and Baron is on the table, but I can't imagine either of these teams are really in a position to set up and go for it.
Well, certainly not quite yet here. Maddie looking for a little bit of an angle onto Serenok, or at least just wants to clear out this wave. Will get chunked out to about half HP for his trouble. Has to be careful about DMK. Tsum will spot him, though, and keep the vision up on the top side.
Can do here, Maddie gonna pop on over the wall. There is a lot of vision here, so luckily Serenok won't be caught out by the Nautilus hook, as Tsum hasn't seemed to miss this game, but now we got a fight here in the river.
Ooh, Scary Jerry nearly face-checking into Dragon Min Kim there, but he actually comes out going in for Maddie just in time. Now they're going to be able to take this fight. Sword Blue, the first one to fall down onto the side of Team Ambition, and it's going to be a 2-for-2 breaking out now. Maddie going to be who's focused down next. Sophist Sage has gotten a bunch of damage out on this Ezreal. 2-for-2, now going to be looking to move towards the side of Bay State. They don't have access to Crimson. He wasn't able to TP in, and now the redemption going to come through to give a little bit of extra health towards DNA, but it's not going to be enough to turn around the fight. Sophist Sage gets himself 3 on the top side and is right back into this game.
Yeah, it looked pretty bad there at the start. You had 2 versus 3 in that Bushwookie attempt there from Dragon. They quickly take down Sword Blue, but really Sophist Sage there just went untouched in that fight. A nice Arcane Shift actually dodged Scary Jerry's ultimate, and so mostly was just free hitting everyone that they wanted to in that fight. No tanks to really block up any kind of damage. And again, no Akali in that fight. They need Crimson to really be looking for these backline carries, and when he's not in those fights, you feel the impact.
Yeah, just barely not on the death stance for Maddie in that last fight. He had only components of that item, and so when the fight broke out, he melts nearly 50% faster as a result of not having that item. In future engagements like that, I think it's going to favor Team Ambition a little bit more. The combination of the healing from Scary Jerry with that item is just going to be miserable to play around for Bay State.
Certainly. Just Death Dance have been so disgusting for so long. It's just a miracle it has been nerfed yet, and with the Seraphine healing on top of it, like you said, even more effective HP through the Death Dance will keep you alive for so incredibly long here. And that's a nice spike to have, though, at this Dragon mark. Does have a little bit of a slight item advantage over Dragon here on the Volibear. Death Dance, very expensive item, and see what they can do here in this next team fight is they want to set up in a choke to try and land some crazy crowd control ultimates stacked up on top of each other once again.
Yeah, Tsum caught a little bit too far out here, was looking for another big flank with the dredge line, but will be caught by Bajani and melted down. Now going to be a 5v4 over this Dragon fight. Dragonman Kim, though, taking a bunch of damage there from the side of DNA, and now Crimson is on the flank, although there's a 5-man grouped up squad of Bay State College here that he's got to be very careful about not getting too close to. Over the wall, though, the poke damage, the sustain, could be pretty good. Scary Jerry goes to regroup with Crimson. There's going to be a big multi-man encore, but what about the follow-up damage? Is it going to come through? So far, the answer is no. Maddie spinning through onto everybody, trying to carry out this fight. Now, DNA has a big chance for some big resets, but he can't get it onto DMK, and he's not going to be able to get it onto Bajani. That's going to be a near ace, just barely not on the board because of Tsum respawning, but Bay State College, they dominate the fight, and they get themselves on a sole point.
So many people felt like they were an auto away from death there. Demon Baron Arc just can't find the targets in the fight to clean it up. And it was a 2 versus 5 there at the end. Let's see how this one started off. You could see how much the vision affected this fight. Team Ambition wanted to try and find some kind of flank, but good wards from Bay State here, stopping Maddie from being able to walk in and find a multi-man ultimate. They're stopping him there, and then when they came around this flank, they were quickly met. So much damage comes out very early on, and despite this almost 5-man encore, if not for that riposte, it was still just not enough damage from anyone here. Beamer Brand Arc helping Maddie finish off targets out here on the top side of the fight, and they're just trying to kite away, but man, it hurts to see. It's just so incredibly close here. Benji gonna be the only high health target that's gonna be able to chase down the Tristana and prevent more resets going over Demon Arc. It was so incredibly close being cleaned up by that Tristana reset ability.
Look, I might be coping a little bit here, Soulpan, but that was a close 4v5.
True.
I can't just keep giving excuses every time Team Ambition loses a fight, but this Seraphine is just so strong, and they played the early game so well that I still gotta feel like I gotta favor them. That's gonna be another kill picked up onto Tsum, though. Now Maddie spinning through onto everybody. DMK going to fall on down, but is looking for the Resurrect. Won't quite get it in time, and now Crimson bursts through on the other side, going to pick up onto that Renata Glass. Gets a 2 for 2 so far, with Maddie on the run away now to try to get away. Crimson did end up dropping at the end of the day. A 2 for 2 fight, going to keep things pretty even all around as Bajani splits on the bottom side.
Yeah, Tsum played a really good early game, certainly feeling the squishiness of Nautilus support kind of in the mid game here. So many people will just want to melt you down when you play for those flanks. Benjani got him the last fight. The entire really front of the team here was hitting him in this last one. Went down so incredibly quick, and despite that, though, they managed to find 2 kills back on this enemy roster. Actually 3, my bad, as there was the Fiora split pushing on the other side. So a little bit of a tough fight there in the jungle, keeping the game even, though, and with so many players going down, it just means no one can go for this Baron, despite so many players being dead.
Yeah, Crimson, though, showing a little bit of that burst potential there. Bursts out Sword Blue, takes him down to 0 and 7. He's got to find a way to utilize some of that damage, though, up against a target like Saranok. If he can take him out of the fight with how much power is in this Corki, claim that big shutdown, that is going to be a huge opening for Team Ambition to be able to play through the rest of the fight. We talked about how as much sustain they have between this Wukong and this Seraphine with the itemization that has come through. Taking out one of the damage dealers really makes that a lot more effective because it makes it way harder to burst through them quickly and gives them more time to utilize the sustain that they've built.
The other thing I want to see is just more items for Demon Brand Arc. I mean, he's sitting on Kraken Slayer and components right now. Definitely behind a little bit the 3-item Corki, but still, these fights are played super, super close. If they can just get some more gold in this man's pocket, I can really see him carrying these fights.
Yeah, just running through that mid lane turret now, utilizing how quickly they can pick him up. That's going to be potentially slow, going on to multiple members. They turn the fight back around onto Bajani. That's going to be a one-man encore, only landed onto Sword Blue, not quite turning around the fight the way that they had hoped, but they do finish off onto Bajani, and the TP in from Crimson gets them the damage that they were missing. They finish off onto DMK, and now focusing forward onto Sophist Sage, who's going to be forced to blink back. DNA, though, he wants blood. He flashes forward, but can't quite get the reset. Still a huge 3-for-1 fight for Team Ambition as they are moving over to the Baron.
Certainly hurts to see. They have a chance to actually contest this, though. Bay State has good vision in the area. They will see them start up this Baron. And when you're playing with Ezreal Corki, you can just try and poke the opponents off of this. Team Ambition also can't really afford to send anyone over this wall to zone them off. My Sword Crimson, no perfect execution available, would be the person to do it normally. But we'll see if they can poke them off this. As Baron's getting pretty low, it might just be finished here by Team Ambition.
Yeah, here comes Serenok. He does have the package. He goes in for it. They're going to look to contest this one, trying to burn down that Baron, but it will get smited down by Maddie. They're going to be walled into the pit for just a little bit longer. Here comes the True Shot Barrage. Gets Crimson so low, but Scary Jerry's in with the heals. He's in with the Moonstone procs, and they will be able to escape with their buff.
Yeah, taking Baron against poke compositions is scary business, but Team Ambition manages to hold their ground there, take down the objective, and now able to reset in time for this dragon with so much gold in their pockets. This is the fight they're looking for. They got another item here now on Demon Brand Arc, now only one item behind the Corki, feeling a little bit better now about their damage in these team fights.
What they're hoping for, 20 seconds to go on this next dragon. This would be Soul for Bay State, so Team Ambition, they've got to show up to play on this next team fight. Scary Jerry taking a fair bit of poke damage there, but he will be able to sustain it right back up, and there's the multi-man cyclone coming through from Maddie, and they're going to turn that one into an equally large encore onto multiple members. Crimson going to back away as they finish off onto Sword Blue. Only one kill for them, but plenty of low health bars, and that's all they need to secure themselves this dragon and to delay the soul further. Bajani nearly getting hit by that dredge line as they fish for a little bit more poke damage coming across from the Corki. They will be able to back away, just barely getting the extension onto that encore to be able to pick up the rest of the fight.
Man, if you had questions as to how powerful Seraphine was, that fight right there is a testament to it. You saw, I think it was Crimson actually go incredibly low in that fight, and then get shielded, tank the Ezreal ult, and then basically heal to full HP off the back of it. Just absolutely insane, disgusting healing coming out from this team. There is no Oblivion Orb online for Bernarda Glass, so they have a little bit of healing reduction, but it's going to be so hard to cut through. Scary Jerry is just doing so much work to keep this team's health bars nice and high.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing about surround sound, too. It just gets so much stronger in team fights because you get more healing for every teammate that's around. So when you're grouped up with 5 members, you can get those crazy 0 to full HP heals.
Completely disgusting. We'll see if they can keep up the team fight wins here. Again, if Bay State College manages to pick up this next Infernal Dragon, they've delayed it for 5 more minutes. But another throw, Tsum being caught out again, something just going slightly wrong here. It does mean that Bay State secures Soul, and then the team fight just becomes so much harder for them. Corki and Ezreal with Infernal Dragon is disastrous to play into, even if you have this healing, sustain style composition.
Tsum is not slowing down here. He is fishing with these dredge lines. Every time we pan the camera over, Tsum is looking to just try to get something started, even onto a tanky target like Dragon Min Kim. He just knows that he's got the more numbers. He knows that his team is very strong, and that if they can pull somebody out of position, it can create the kind of chaotic fight where Wukong and Akali can really run amok and can find their way onto some of these high-priority targets.
High priority targets. I'm pretty sure I saw Sophist Sage burn Arcane Shift incredibly early in that last fight that they lost to position himself closer and then got blown up as a result. It was Maddie, I think, who found the first bit of CC and then the Seraphine ult on top of it, Encore just carrying through the Wukong, but needs to be so careful. You are the only other damage threat on this team. You have to play so safe if you're playing alongside the Corki.
Split push threat from Bajani, still ever present here, is getting matched on the top side by DNA as they're going to break out onto another fight here. They get the lockdown onto the target they were looking for. It is going to be Sophist Sage dropping down. Sword Blue going to join him. Shut down goes to the man himself, Scary Jerry, and they are going to be up now 5 versus 3 on the map, looking to push into the base.
Yeah, no more Baron buff, but that is a whole lot of members down. There is a split pushing Fiora on the other side. Benji doing whatever they can to draw members down towards the spot side. It will mean an inhibitor, as I do not think Crimson can stop him, but that is a whole lot of members down. We'll see what damage they can do to the enemy team's base here, as Bay State gonna lose a few of their own structures here. It's Ambition just tearing through this mid inhibitor.
Yeah, they're definitely going to lose the mid inhib. Sophist Sage still has 20 more seconds on him. Let's see if they can bust through the top side. This 3-man squad, though, just going to back away. Looks like DNA going to be left all alone up there, not going to be able to continue the push onto the top side. It is going to be an inhib for inhib trade, but the mid inhib certainly going to be a huge deal. We're talking about global pressure.
Okay. I thought that was be a nice little engage over the wall moment for him, but does get spotted out by their own wards, so able to see the Renata Glass coming and able to make the escape before getting picked off.
Yeah, Crimson maybe finding onto Bajani. Doesn't quite get the last few kunai to interrupt that recall. That could have been a big moment, though, for Team Ambition and their young top laner. They had Tsum coming in from the top side, potentially look to punish that Fiora. Not going to happen this time around.
Yeah, one nice thing here for Team Ambition is their ability to engage from Fog of War. You saw it in that last fight there. It was Tsum using the Hex Flash to just dash forward. Wukong obviously able to stealth on forward as well, and if either of those targets get on top of your team and Seraphine can land the ult, someone's getting picked off, and they managed to land it onto a high priority target there. Sophist Sage going down quick again, does have flash up for this next fight, so I'm looking at Sophist Sage to stay alive in this next team fight through Ambition's engage, as on Ezreal you should have the tools to make this happen.
Definitely should. Going to be moving into the jungle now. DMK hiding around on the other side. Going to be caught by the scanner, but not by any abilities, and so we'll be able to just walk away. Scary Jerry's stealing away that blue buff, making sure he's going to have all the tools he needs. He's now full build, by the way. Seraph's Embrace completed. Going to be a full 6-item Seraphine in these upcoming team fights. The same can be said for members like Sophist Sage. We're going the full distance here. Full inventories for multiple members.
No.
Tsum getting caught out once again. Going to be forced to flash away. Will get healed back up by Scary Jerry, but that's going to be the flash engage tool down.
Yeah, that certainly hurts, and Demon Brand taking a whole lot of damage. Again, will be healed up by Seraphine, but they're winning the poke war here. This is what this comp excels at, just keeping you away from the objective that they want to take.
Yeah, they need to force an engage here, and with the flash down on the Nautilus, it's getting tougher and tougher for them. DNA looking on the other side. They're going to have to force their way in to contest on this Dragon Soul. There's going to be a big package layer down, but it's a steal from Maddie to secure the Dragon and prevent the Soul from coming on through with the Encore onto multiple members. Now dash through. Second Cyclone from Maddie onto the back line, focusing onto Sword Blue. Dragonmankin's the first one to fall. Sword Blue's the second. Bejani's the third. And DNA finally finds his angle onto Saranok and picks up a huge shutdown. It's a 4-for-0 team fight for Team Ambition, and that's all it takes to be able to close out the game. Sophist Sage gonna try to defend this 1 versus 2. Chunks Crimson out very, very low, fighting off the minions, but is now in a 1 versus 4 situation as there's another Siege minion wave coming in through the mid lane.
Yeah, gotta do whatever you can to take down this wave. Has the Arcane Barrage in a second, but actually gets hooked on in, and that's gonna be it. Shut down, given on over. Tsum closes out the game with another clean hook.
And that's going to be a 1-0 start for Team Ambition here in the second PGOQ. Much better than last time around. A huge performance by Maddie and Scary Jerry, going to move them into that 1-0 bracket and going to get us what should be a very competitive game number 2 here in a little bit.
It's always the rough part of being that seed 16. It does mean you're going to another tough matchup, but I want to shout out their team fighting here in this last game. It really felt like Team Ambition figured it all out, was layering the ults at the right times in that fight to stall out against the enemy team's damage. Despite, I think, a 4-man Renata Glass ultimate there in that last engagement, they had Seraphine Encore land onto 2 and prevent the Corki and Ezreal from doing the damage that they wanted to the tightly grouped up 4 targets just meleeing each other for Team Ambition.
Yeah, and you know, the biggest performers that game, by the way, this is not to undersell DNA and Crimson, but the solo later's a little bit quieter that game. But Maddie, Scary Jerry, and Tsum on the revenge mission, they take out Bay State College here. They get revenge for their respective universities back in C-Law and are going to be coming in to round 2 at 1-0. Congratulations to those guys. Huge win here to start out the night.
Absolutely massive. It feels really good to get that first one under your belt. 2 more to go here out of the next 4 or so games here in Proving Grounds. 3-2 does qualify for that next round of games, but we'll see if Team Ambition can do it this time around. Is off to, like you said, a much better start than last time.
Absolutely. Always would rather be 1-0 than 0-1. That's what I always say. And with that said, we're going to throw it to a little bit of a break here. Got to finish out all of the round 1 games before we start to find out what the round 2 matches are going to look like. So it's going to be a little bit of a break. Hunt around, check out some of the other PGOQ matches, but come right back here. Once it's time for round number 2, we'll be announcing that matchup as soon as we know what it is.
Support system on the rear. Face front, come say so.
Hey, back doors are clear.
Chain tight, can't play no.
Well fed, we eatin'.
The motto is to push for it, the ops stay to wuss for it. Like matter of fact, we creepin', now we sneaking. Enemy highs, we be seeking. Lurk at the waters and bushes, oh man. Cold eyes, we deepin'. All of you die, one at a time. Those are the facts, we don't throw dice. Ready to fire, ready or not, we letting it gone. Bang, 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 bang. Wake up, we want war. Y'all know what time it is. Paint red on this ground floor. All we throw is fizz. To the core we lit. Rain down abyss. Set it up like this.
Set it off like this. Set it off like. Set it off like this. Set it off like. Set it off like this. Set it off like. Set it off like this. Burn it up, burn it up.
Set it off like this. Set it off like. Set it off like this. Set it off like. Set it off like this. Set it off like. Set it off like this. Burn it up, burn it up.
Too many enemies, too many enemies, too many enemies. Yeah, too many enemies, too many enemies, too many enemies, too many enemies. Yeah. 조금 밑에 모여봤자 니네 이 몸한텐 형 이겼으니 형 오늘 좀 거만해. 봐줄 테니 한 대 때려 시원하게 때려봤자 넌 내 손 안에 살려줄게요 소 가능하다면 안 해주면 내 심장이나 상처. Yeah, what? Wait. 연구만 있어 잘 그려려면 안 해주면 바로 매부 비상형. Go riders, go riot, gasoline lighters, more fire. Ski tires, blow up dynamite, need more wires. 너의 샤인 드리고 검은 쭉 갈까 일어나면 그렇게 만들어 뼈와를.
Go riders, go riot, gasoline lighters, more fire. Skid tires, blow up dynamite, need more wires. 너의 샤인 드리고 검은 조용할 거야 일어나면 그렇게 만들어 뼈와를. Set it off like this, set it off like. Set it off like this. Set it off like. Set it off like this. Set it off like. Set it off like this.
Burn it up, burn it up.
Set it off like this. Set it off like. Set it off like this. Set it off like. Set it off like this. Set it off like. Set it off like this. Burn it up, burn it up. Take no.
shorty ain't gon' give enough funds. Better hit the branch, boo, in preparation. Feature dancer status, she the center of attention. Jacob Javis, the big convention boys coming with them thick stacks. Stadium players got the grips in there. Face like a doll, body juicy, deadly when she grabbing and make out. She make music with her body, she that number one single. She make music with her body, the ballers they spending money, money. Pop that, pushing that, making that a sing. Money, pop that, pushing that, making that a sing. Money, pop that, pushing that, making that a sing. She make music with her body, the ballers they spending money, money. Pop that, pushing that, making that a sing. Money, pop that, pushing that, making that a sing. Money, pop that, pushing that, making that a sing. She make music with her body, the ballers they spending money,
Welcome back, everybody, to tonight's broadcast of the Unified PGCQ Open Qualifiers, where Team Ambition is sitting at 1-0 here, and we are going to continue to follow them as they go and face off against Cincinnati Fear in round two. Solpan, that is a tough matchup up against the finalists from the last PGOQ.
Yeah, certainly a tough one. And everyone would love to win their second game, end the day undefeated, and only one more win on that 3-game day tomorrow. But I think, again, this matchup right here will really serve as a good benchmark for Team Ambition and really tell us just how good is this new roster, win or lose.
Yeah, was really a tough game one up against Bay State College. Started off super, super strong with that lead in the bottom lane, but was met in turn by some great ganks from DMK. But, I've got to start off prep for game two the same way we kind of prepped everyone for game one, which is praising Scary Jerry. He had a fantastic game there in game number one on the support of Seraphine. Couldn't come in with kind of the big damage numbers as he was going for that support style build, but had some great ultimates, had a fantastic laning phase. And, we were talking about Seraphine, maybe a little bit more of a must-ban pick nowadays. So I'm excited to see him take to the Rift on maybe something with a little bit more of a damage potential.
Yeah, I think we now have a side flip here. So it's going to be Team Ambition on the red side, and as I was talking about before we went live, I feel like Seraphine's just a red side ban. If blue side gets it round one, you can flex it to 3 different lanes. It just ruins your ability to draft around what the enemy team is picking. So played it very well in that game. If Cincinnati Fear doesn't know how to pick this, and I imagine that they've been practicing this because everyone has been playing Seraphine, they might you could see it get banned against Team Ambition, but I don't see that happening. So I think Team Ambition's gonna have to ban it out this game and then draft something new, like you mentioned, giving Scary Jerry more of the guns, so to speak.
Yeah, they insta-locked that pick on blue side first pick. So I think they're keyed in to the Seraphine based on the last game there. So I suspect that we're going to see it banned away by Team Ambition. Unfortunate that it's going to have to go that way, but it does mean that we're going to get a little bit of a different look from the squad coming in to this game number two. Once again, going to be another tough matchup for Crimson in that top lane, especially as I want to talk about Dragoon. He's had a fantastic year so far. A former teammate of DNA's back when they were on Dig Mirage together, now going to be facing off against his former teammate here on the side of Cincinnati Fear. Sure, he's happy to see one another, these two solo laners to see one another again, but this time, Dragoons, he's on a stacked roster here that have really been making moves throughout the entire year. When they were on No Team, him, Blase, and Plux, this same core from Spring, they had a fantastic run there as well.
Yeah, Cincinnati Fear really feels like a team that can play around any position. Every single member of their team, jungle, mid, and bot, all play carries. The only person who really you'd expect to play that kind of engage and let the team be the ones to carry will be Helix tiers on support. Has a tendency to play towards more engaged champions to lock down targets for the assassins, for the carries of his team. But Cincinnati Fear overall is a scary roster because you never know which side they're going to be playing for.
Yeah, you really don't. It's they've got a lot of flexibility. Blaze has shown a lot of potential in the mid lane over the course of this year. Plux as well. These guys have a lot of experience together. This is now their second split. And then even Trickster and Sketch, coming in together off of Taco Gaming and Evil Geniuses Prodigies, respectively. These are all top of the line prospects. Cincinnati Fear really came into this split looking to make an impact. They were certainly able to do that the first time around. And, looking to repeat that performance now, going to have to face off against this brand new TA roster. And it's certainly a big task to be able to take on this team, but we saw some great looks out of Maddie and Scary Jerry last game that I'm going to be looking forward to seeing if they're going to be able to replicate and what kind of counter picks they can bring to the table now that they're going to be on that red side.
Yeah, of course, with all the game data already out there, you kind of know what maybe the other teams are going for, but I still think that, like Cincinnati Fear, Team Ambition is a team that didn't really show everything in that game one. We already mentioned so much. Scary Jerry, insanely good carry player there down in the bottom lane, has so many different picks up his sleeve that he can still bring out. Xerath being one of those, they would really want to run another AP towards the bottom lane. But again, you can play just a traditional ADC style. You can try and rather than banning out the Yuumi, leave that open and allow yourself to opt into that Twitch Yuumi bot lane, the Yuumi Zeri bot lane as well. Both extremely powerful combinations we haven't actually seen get brought out just yet because that Yumi was banned away in that game one.
Yeah, Plux did actually snag the Yumi for himself over on the side of Cincinnati Fear for their first game, where they ended up taking down their opponents. So they ran the Tristana Yumi bottom lane. So both of these teams actually kind of keyed in on that Tristana selection, them actually taking it towards the bottom lane for Sketch, which is a classic Sketch pick, by the way. If you think back to his time on AoE last year, that was a really big pick for him. I remember Grapes did a whole video about Sketch's Tristana and the crazy win rate that he had built up on that champion. Has fallen a little bit by the wayside this split. You know, it's a pick that's really dropped down people's priority lists. Even Sketch has only busted it out once or twice. Now going to maybe have a little bit more opportunity to go for it, and has already today.
Yeah, I love seeing the Tristana paired with aggressive supports. I think like my favorite weird bot lane duo for the Tristana is Braum, because Tristana wants to jump in aggressively and Braum can use Tristana as a ward to actually get into the fight and then look to lock down some stuns. I think it's always fun to see that bot lane duo get brought out, but I think Braum is one of those champions that's kind of fallen by the wayside. I really think we're gonna be stuck here in this Enchanter meta for a little bit. So really expecting to see double Enchanter bot lanes coming out for both these teams, especially if the Seraphine gets banned out.
True, although Tsum's Nautilus was great in that last game there. That's a pick that he's really pulled out a lot during his time on St. Louis University this year. You could see why in that last game. He seems very comfortable on it, was really looking
Fearless.
for a lot of those aggressive engages. Yeah, fearless, certainly true for him on that one. And that's kind of been the sort of picks that he's leaned towards throughout a lot of this year. He played a lot of Nautilus. Second most played is Thresh. Third most played is Leona. And after that, you start to see some of the enchanters. So Tsum, really a guy that wants to be on those kind of engagers. At least that's his kind of history. We'll see if he's going to be willing to make that swap towards enchanters on the big stage here today.
I think that kind of goes for both Plux and Tsum. So maybe we'll just get a full-on handshake and just agree to no enchanters. We'll have a nice brawly bot lane style.
Perhaps.
Fight it out with some Dravens and Tristanas. But of course, we'll have to wait and see. Draft still around the corner here for both these teams. As kind of looking at some of the more contested picks for both these guys, looking more towards the jungle. The big pick I see come out for Cincinnati Fear is Kindred being on the table as kind of one of those picks that pops up in competitive every now and again, and the entire team just knows how to play around it really, really effectively.
Yeah, no, the and DNA, you know, has really been prioritizing an interesting pool of mid laners. He didn't get to show it last game where he was playing the Tristana, but the Brand and the Syndra have been really high up on his pick list. He drew a Syndra ban in that last game. I'm curious to see if we might see that or the Brand end up coming through in a draft today, as you know, we've started to see a little bit of LPL Brand, a little bit of some of these other picks starting to come on through. I'm a Brand fan myself, so I would love to see that one come through from DNA today.
Here we are, instant ban towards that Syndra, as you mentioned from that last game. So carrying on over, Fear taking a page from the chapter of that last game's draft, and we'll see if anything else kind of looks the same here. But Team Ambition banning out Ari once again. Wukong, something that they picked up last time, actually getting banned out here. So maybe sussing out a little bit of Fear's favorite first picks and trying to ban some of those out before we get into the second round.
Yeah, for sure. So the Lilia Syndra bans from Fear, the Wukong Ari. We will see if Team Ambition wants to take away that Seraphine. We talked about how it's a pretty big deal. It's actually Fear who bans it away, though. So Team Ambition, they get to free roll it. They ban away the Zeri, and now no Seraphine available, but all three red side bans still get to be used.
I think what I'm seeing here with them banning out the Zeri, they're trying to push Fear towards the Tristana. Making the assumption here that Sketch won't lock in the Twitch. So now it's actually Team Ambition that has the option to lock in that Twitch Yumi duo. See if they end up going for it. It is a little bit of a playing your hand early in the draft, and kind of seemed like Team Ambition didn't want to do that in the last game with 3 flex picks being locked into the first round last time.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess the Tristana priority pretty high here for Fear. Presumably that's going to be going for Sketch. At least it's a champion that really stands out as a uniquely Sketch pick. Not to say that it's unreliable, but to say that it's a pick that is selected by Sketch very often. But I would not be surprised to see Blaze take that one up either. The Lucian Nami, though, going to come through from Scary Jerry and Tsum. Tsum taking up those enchanters as you called out, and Scary Jerry now on a true carry in the form of this Lucian.
Yeah, super aggressive bot lane locked in here. This is calling him out. This is full on. We're gonna lock in the Lucian Nami. We're gonna run you over bot lane. Scary Jerry on a carry pick here. See what they can do here in this incredibly aggressive bottom lane. On the other side, it will be Tristana Leona being locked in though, so equally aggressive. I mean, not exactly the melee engage support versus melee engage support I wanted, but still certainly a fight heavy bot lane being locked in for both these teams.
Yeah, absolutely here. So going to be potentially the Tristana Leona. Now going to be a Trundle locked in here as the counter pick to the Volibear. Really like that one when you see the Leona face up as well. A great counter pick to that selection in particular. If you can cast that Subjugate on her when she has the Eclipse up, you're going to get a whole lot of extra tank stats. You're going to get a whole lot of extra mileage towards melting down that tanky Leona.
Yeah, it's always just really nice for those front to back style team fights. A little known fact also, it's hard to pull off. There's a small window you can do it, but Trundle can actually pillar Tristana out of her jumps. So like you know like
Oh, yeah.
everyone thinks Tristana jump is like super safe because you can buffer it against Nautilus hook, Blitzcrank hook. But against Trundle pillar, if you start the animation and you get pillared, it just knocks you out of it. So Trundle can pin you to walls that you're trying to jump over using pillar. It's hard to do, but it is incredibly effective.
Yeah, absolutely here. And, we've seen those Tristanas get punished even with the rocket jump already today. So, gonna be something that they're looking to accomplish on the side of Team Ambition. This pick can be so safe if they keep their positioning appropriate and they can get those big rocket jump resets. Having that counterplay available going to be really big here. It's a dash, not a blink. So, some of these really big CC abilities like the tidal wave from Nami can also serve to kind of get in the way of those attempted escapes and things like that. See what ends up playing out, as there are going to be bans directed both ways. There's going to be the Nico ban. DNA getting a lot of bans directed towards his pocket picks here. Are they going to ban away the brand too? Let my man play his stuff. Let him speak his truth and play some of these off meta mages here. Doesn't look like Cincinnati Fear is going to let it happen though. They're really pinching this pool.
Yeah, no such luck this game around. Brand looks like it's being hovered here as the next potential ban. It was always nice to remove those weird picks that I mean mid laner might pick up, just because a lot of the times your own team just isn't comfortable playing into those. You don't see them a lot in solo queue, you don't see them a lot in scrim, so when you see them on the table, you can draw bans away, but that may enable Team Ambition now to lock in a pick that is just better suited for their composition.
Yeah, it may very well. And, it's a nice advantage in draft to force these kind of bans out. Because, as you said, it means that some of the more meta picks are available here. You think about, yeah, Ari's already banned away. Or you could just lock in an Ivia. I mean, that'd be pretty wild. But no, the Victor is kind of the more meta selection. You've gotten to pinch away the Zoe, the Azir, the Ari, even the Syndra that some people are willing to select. It's a little bit more meta adjacent. All of those ones now banned away, and now that Cincinnati Fear has dedicated all these bans towards your Nico and your brand, you can just lock in the Victor and feel real good about it.
Don't tell me we're about to get Victor Corky again here in this
Oh,
game.
we are.
Getting the Gangplank cover right now, but there is still, of course, that next last round blue pick. Gangplank, certainly another powerful pickup here, and I always like Gangplank into lower range targets like this Lucian, but also Lucian has the double shot, so he's very easily able to pick off your barrels, assuming they're paying attention. Still looking for the last lock in here from Fear to round out this composition, and could very well be this LeBlanc. It's another staple pick, I believe, actually, of Tricksters.
Yeah, I would be excited to see the LeBlanc here from Blaze. It would make a lot of sense, and it would be an option to play aggressively up against DNA, which is something that historically you've been able to potentially do up against the Victor. But it is going to be Corky coming on through here. But now Crimson gets counterpick. He knows he's up against this Gangplank and that it's potentially abusable. Hovering the Olaf right now, the really wild pick that I got to call out as a potential reality could be they could flex the Lucian top and take another 80 carry here. Lucian, as you said, really effective up against that Gangplank. That's a strategy that we've seen utilized by teams like Evil Geniuses to really try to pinch out that Gangplank and punish it. But it's going to be the Olaf, so probably going towards the top side.
Actually like Olaf in the Gangplank quite a bit. I think the ability of Olaf to just walk through the slows, which is kind of what Gangplank uses to kite around, and then keep your ultimate actually online because Gangplank doesn't really have a way to get away from you, is very, very powerful here. On top of that, you can dodge away from all the CC that Fear's locked in. You'll knock away the Buster Shot, you'll knock away Volibear stuns, you'll knock away Leona stuns. It's a very powerful pick, but again, a little bit risky there in the top lane. Certainly another volatile matchup being brought up here by this newly role swapped top laner from Team Ambition.
Yeah, and a real top laner brought out by this role swap top laner this time too. He was busting out the Akali in game number 1 for any viewers who maybe weren't here for game 1 and are trickling on in just to see Cincinnati Fear play. There was a Akali top for Crimson in game number 1, so bringing over some of his mid lane roots with him into that top lane, and he played very well. He was set a little bit behind by the opposing Fiora early on, being played by Vijani, but was eventually able to kind of pull it back and had some great performances in fights. Landed some really sick shuriken flips, I must say, that really ended up spinning some of these fights around into their favor. And all around a solid first top game for the young Team Ambition. He's not really a rookie. He was a rookie in spring, so whether he's still a rookie or not, debatable by your definitions here. But this time around, going to be bringing out the Olaf up against Dragoon's Gangplank. Dragoon, huge Gangplank guy, has been really utilizing this champion super effectively throughout the entire PG circuit this split and last split as well. So certainly a pick of his to be feared, but Crimson showing no fear, taking the counter pick, wants to go and brawl it out with him.
It's always a little bit interesting because I think Crimson is also big on the Gangplank, one of those flex picks that probably just knew a lot about playing as mid. Also has been playing that towards the top lane, kind of leading up to this tournament. So you have a player that knows how Gangplank works on the Olaf, and a player that I'm not sure necessarily knows how Olaf works, at least not to the same regard that Crimson is going to understand the Gangplank being another massive player of it. So you have a slight advantage up there in the top lane, but again, it all comes down to really top lane experience. Wave management's very different, tracking the jungler is very different. You are kind of on that island and on your own. So I'll have to see if Crimson can do as good of a job they did last time, finding those leads early up in that top lane and then using it to win team fights with the rest of the squad.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be what we're on the lookout for. Also on Maddie here to see what he's going to be able to get done on this Olaf, or on this, on this Trundle. He's clearly going to be on the Trundle this time around. He had some really creative pathing that we saw in game number 1. He was able to get a lot done early on that Wukong. We talked about how that's an attribute of his that we really love to see and that we're excited to have on Team Ambition. I want to see some more of that coming out of the Trundle. I want to see some solid Volibear counter ganks, and I want to see if he's going to be able to use that pillar to shut down the Tristana.
So to say, if I don't see DNA build a Frozen Heart this game, or maybe even T-Sum, I think I'm going to be very disappointed. Frozen Heart into Tristana, Gangplank, and Corki is massively effective. Even the Volibear to some extent. Being able to stun on that attack speed, tank up a lot more damage. And by the way, it is 108% gold efficient, so please buy Frozen Heart this game if he's so incredibly good with Divine Sunderer.
Yeah, it is a crazy item like that. It's just kind of slipping under the view of everybody over the last couple of months or even years, one might say, since the last time that Frozen Heart actually got changed. You know, there's not a lot of true tanks that get played, and a lot of people. We talked about how broken Death Stance was last game. Death Stance is so broken and is kind of that bruisery armor item that it gets a lot of the focus on towards it. But as you said, that Frozen Heart can just be so effective and would really be good up against a couple of these auto attackers. And you're facing 4 of them this game up against Cincinnati Fear, so would definitely be huge.
Yeah, I think the Death Stance is tempting to go for because it has the armor stats built in. You can see the effects of it in the middle of team fights with all the healing you end up getting, and it stacks really well with the passive of Trundle's W. But Frozen Heart, man, the stats that it doesn't show you, the hidden ones of all the damage reduction you end up getting off of that, plus all the sustain you'll get if you take Divine Sunder with it, the effective HP you end up getting from Frozen Heart is just it's just so awesome. Just please build Frozen Heart. It'd be so incredibly good. I'm always a shill for the forgotten items, the ability haste that you get from it, the armor you get from it, the damage reduction you get from it. This is one of those games where you're gonna want to have the item in your pocket. So either T-Sum or Maddie, if you're listening, I better see a Frozen Heart.
Yeah, let's see what we can get out of them this game. We're going to throw it to another break here while we get loaded onto the Rift for our second and final game of the night. We'll be right back with Cincinnati Fear taking on Team Ambition.
Support system on the rear. Face front, come say so.
Hey, back doors all clear.
Chain tight, can't play no
Well
more.
fed, we eatin'.
The motto is to push for it, the ops stay too wuss for it. Like matter of fact, we creeping, now we sneaking. Enemy highs, we be seeking. Lurking through waters and bushes, oh man. Cool dodge, we deepin'. All of we die, one at a time. Those are the facts, we don't throw dice. Ready to fire, ready or not, we letting it grind. Bang, 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 bang. Wake up, we want war. Y'all know what time it is. set it up like this.
Set it off like this. Set it off like. Set it off like this. Set it off like. Set it off like this. Set it off like. Set it off like this. Burn it up, burn it up.
Set it off like this. Set it off like. Set it off like this. Set it off like. Set it off like this. Set it off like. Set it off like this. Burn it up, burn it up.
Too many enemies, too many enemies. Too many enemies. Yeah, too many enemies, too many enemies. Enemies. Too many enemies, too many enemies. Yeah. 조금 밑에 모여봤자 니니 이 몸한텐 형 이겼으니 형은 늦어 그만해 봐줄 테니 한 대 때려 시원하게 때려봤자 넌 내 손 안에 살려줄게요 소 가능하다면 안 해주면 내 심장이나 상처 Yeah, what? Wait 연구만 있어 잘 그려라면 안 해주면 바로 매부 비상형 Go riders, go riot gasoline lighters, more fire Ski tires, blow up dynamite, need more wires 너의 샤에 드리고 검화며 쭉 갈까 일어나면 그렇게 만들어 뼈화를
Go riders, go riot, gasoline lighters, more fire. Skid tires, blow up dynamite, need more wires. 너의 샤에 들이올 검화면 조용할 거야 일어나면 그렇게 만들어 평화를. Set it off like this, set it off like. Set it off like this, set it off like. Set it off like this, set it off like. Set it off like this,
Burn it up, burn it up.
set it off like this, set it off like. Set it off like this, set it off like. Set it off like this, set it off like. Set it off like this, burn it up, burn it up. Say no.
Welcome back, everybody, to tonight's broadcast of the Unified Proving Ground Circuit Open Qualifiers, where we have got Fear taking on Team Ambition here. Cincinnati Fear, the finalists from the last PGQ, now going to be looking to move up to 2-0 once again here. Team Ambition, the new roster on the block, fresh off their first win, going to be looking to take them down a peg.
Certainly looking to take down this new roster. Ambition, of course, would love to prove themselves here against the former finalists in Cincinnati Fear. Nice, pretty straightforward compositions locked in across the board here. I think very, very clear what each of these teams is trying to do. You got Victor Cork in the mid lane, will be farming it out, and really all the action this game. I'm looking towards Crimson and Dragoon, and of course these double bot lane duos for Fear and Team Ambition.
Yeah, for sure. Dragoon opting for the Ignite here on the Gangplank. I don't know what it is about Crimson today, but he's just inspiring his opponents to go for the Ignite over the Teleport. We'll see if that additional global pressure ends up meaning anything for Team Ambition here as they start to get into the mid-game and start to really fight around this bottom lane. As Tsum getting picked a little early here is going to throw out that bubble onto Sketch, force him to back away.
Man, early trades for everyone. Plux dashing on in super early. Sketch as well, looking for some very, very early on damage. And kind of critically here, Plux didn't end up bringing Sweeper to the bush, but it's actually Team Ambition that placed their ward so far back, so it's so hard to actually spot out this Leona, and now going to land another snare.
Yeah, that's going to be another focus on a Scary Jerry. Bubble ends up not landing onto either target, so Scary Jerry gonna lose about half of his HP. A rough early start to the lane here for Team Ambition, but they do have the sustain on their side with this Nami. We'll see if they're able to spin it back around.
Always a little bit nice to have that healing in your pocket. Additionally, with the way that they actually Team Ambition set up their wards, it looks like they were expecting to lose the level 2. So kind of as expected, Tristana, of course, gets early shove just kind of by default. Quickly getting this wave pushed into Team Ambition's tower, and with that ward now expiring, Plux does have free reign over this bush, and Team Ambition is still struggling to hit this level 2, so a whole lot of zone potential coming out from Plux.
Yeah, they're going to have to chill for a little bit. They've kind of lost the battle for level 2 with some of those poorer trades earlier on, and that's okay. It doesn't mean that the whole lane is ruined, but it does mean that you're going to have to play a little bit safe here. So there's going to be a little bit of a roam up top from Trickster here. See what he's going to be able to get done. The dive going to start breaking out on a Scary Jerry. Everything going to be layered on top of him, and that's going to be first blood, but it gets traded back here as they finish off on a Trickster, and a nice flash play from DNA to make it a 2-for-1 in favor of Team Ambition.
Yep. Picking up a few kills there. They did have to burn the teleport and the flash, and of course still losing one in the dive. Plux doing a great job kiting along the outer edge of that turret to keep the aggro on top of him for as long as possible. But again, these turrets early on, man, that new damage kind of hurts, and if you haven't been running this patch nearly enough and going for these dives, you just don't see it coming. So maybe catching Fear a little bit off guard here. They're in the bottom lane to get chunked out fairly heavily, and will suffer 2 kills as a result of it.
Yeah, and huge for DNA there especially. Victor, one of those champions that you really want to get those early kills on because it catapults you towards upgrading your abilities so much faster. Does mean that he's going to be on that leveled up E very soon. It's going to give him solid priority over the Corki once he does get that one, and open up more opportunities for he and Maddie to make plays around the map.
There is also some damage control coming out for Team Ambition here. They're sending Scary Jerry actually to mid to push in this wave because they ended up handing over that last wave to Demon Brand. And so there's a potential risk here. Scary Jerry in a scary position as can't off-roll, hovering here, just looking for the opportunity. He's going to find it.
Yeah, Tsum gets jumped on here by Trickster, loses a bunch of health, and is going to be forced to flash there. Been a rough couple of minutes for Tsum. He has been getting really harshly bullied here, keeps finding himself in unfortunate positions up against some of these heavy CC characters like the Volibear and the Leona. Now going to be without his flash, but sitting at a 1-0 scoreline, has navigated it very well.
It's a little bit interesting that Maddie's playing towards his top side. We'll see if they can get anything done, though, as it's Dragoon playing very aggressive.
Yeah, Dragoon stepping up pretty far here, and Crimson just takes the fight with him. Maddie showing up just in time is going to be able to secure that kill. And the top side now tilting in the favor of Team Ambition. A little bit of a CS lead had been developed by Dragoon, but that's going to be largely equalized as he clears out this wave. Nicely played by Crimson and Maddie to get the bait off.
Very nicely done up there. I mean, even saw Dragoon kind of knowing this was coming, look for that ward towards that bottom side river, pushing it up towards the tri-bush, even out of his own bush to make sure he could spot the Trundle walking out of it, but just walked up too far anyways, and doesn't even burn the flash here in this instance. Going to hold on to that summoner spell and look for the trade later on.
A trade back and forth in the bottom lane there. A little bit of a level advantage for Sketch. Going to utilize that one as they trade up against Scary Jerry here. Will be pretty much health neutral as they're looking to just try to continue to zone the TA bot lane off this way, but that's going to be another jump out of the bush onto Scary Jerry. He is going to drop on down, and now they're going to move forward onto Tsum. It's going to be a double kill for Sketch and Plux in the bottom lane.
That's showing you why the priority was put on Tristana in this draft. Round 1 pick, and it's working out phenomenally well for them. 2 kills picked up in the bottom lane. A wave crashing once again. No summoners available for T-Sim to try and get away from that one. Scary Jerry just simply locked down by the damage. And nice early lead here for this Tristana in the bottom lane.
Yeah, a lot of disrespect there from the TA bottom lane, not acknowledging that the Leona could still be waiting in that bush, and that a landed Zenith Blade likely means death there with this full Tristana combo. You know, they drafted this bottom lane looking for this exact play, and they pull it off.
Managing to get that one right out of the bush there, and now it's certainly going to be Team Ambition in a dangerous position. Can't off-roll. Looking for that level 6, could end up looking for another dive. Still level 5 for now, and won't have the option just yet, but it's coming, man. That Volibear will be looking for those dives, because I'm pull it off at level 3. He gets even better at level 6.
Yeah, and at this point, Scary Jerry is substantially behind. This is probably the look where you start to seed some of those dragons. Luckily, they've set up Crimson very well in the top lane and can try to look to turn this into an opportunity to pressure up against Dragoon, secure themselves some Rift Heralds. Nicely played there to execute down that barrel.
The other thing they have going for them is, of course, Demon Brand Arc here in the mid lane. Does have 1 kill already to the name and a slight CS advantage over the Corki here. So certainly another member they could play around. And even though they will be giving over, I believe, like you mentioned, these early dragons, going for the dragons later on is when they can get the setup and they can lay down some vision. Victor is so hard to walk into for Cincinnati Fear.
Yeah. Moving on forward, Maddie is setting up for this dive in the Tri-Brush. Crimson going to crash in the wave, and they are going to go for this one. Dragoon does have the ultimate, going to throw it on down. Crimson has not thrown the ultimate out yet, will do so. Now looking to tank up the turret, but they aren't going to be able to finish off the kill on Dragoon. He survives at about 200 HP. Now is looking to maybe collapse onto somebody else. Have to keep an eye on Blaze here if he's going to be able to move his way down. Looks like the answer is no. Ends up netting nothing for either team, but this is more free time that Sketch has on the bottom lane.
Yeah, this certainly hurts. They kind of know the Volibear is just lurking and going so incredibly deep. Look where Can't Off-Roll is. We'll actually go into a pause here, but you can see the looming threat of the Volibear charging down in bot lane. On my way pings on the way out. Meanwhile, on the other side of the map, you do have Maddie taking this Rift Herald, so they are cross-mapping this, but there's a huge risk coming down here towards this bottom lane.
And the pause is over just as soon as it gets started, but it does look like this is an opportunity for Trickster to take another dive onto Scary Jerry. They are going to be able to execute him down here, but what can T-Sim get back? Sketch falling very, very low here. Plux has been taking up the turret for so long, won't quite be able to net themselves the kill. No savior TP from DNA this time. It is going to be a successful dive for Cincinnati Fear.
Yeah, there was one decision in that entire dive I disagreed with from Team Ambition, and I think it was Scary Jerry trying to finish off the minion wave with abilities rather than saving them for the fight. I think if you save that first piercing light on the Lucian, try and direct it either onto Sketch or Plex or whoever's taking tower as soon as that Volibear ultimate wears off, that could have potentially netted you a kill, but either way, it's just tough out here for Team Ambition. So much pressure from Fear being dropped towards this bottom lane, really utilizing the Volibear in the way that you want to, just continuously looking for dives.
Yeah, and what a great move to punish this Lucian Nami here. This is such a staple of the meta that's really come across all levels of play. Cincinnati Fear, they prepare for it. They blind the Tristana, fully aware that that Lucian Nami is up and available. They pair it up with the Leona, and they're able to play out this lane successfully and get themselves a substantial advantage now. And now Sketch, on what a lot would consider his signature champion, up to a 2-0 start, already has the Kraken Slayer completed.
Make fighting for dragons so incredibly difficult, especially if that Tristana is so far ahead. Did see Team Ambition win out a game last time without really having a super far ahead sustained damage dealer like an ADC, with DNA falling pretty far behind on their own Tristana pickup, but this time around, much different game, much different style here. Tristana being very, very far ahead against this team that really doesn't have super heavy lockdown. It can be very difficult for them to come back, make teamfight wins happen here in the mid game.
Yeah, for sure here. And up against a really experienced team so far this season like Cincinnati Fear, you got to be able to rely back on your veterans like DNA, like Maddie, be able to recenter your team and re-prepare coming into some of these mid-game team fights. Only 10 minutes in so far. Yes, it's about a 2k gold lead in the favor of Cincinnati Fear, but it is nothing that can't be come back from. Be on the lookout for how Team Ambition is going to manage. We can already see Maddie starting to invade over onto this blue side. DNA is there to back him up. Going to steal that one away, donate it to the Victor. Nicely played. And meanwhile, Crimson has a chance to get some alone time with this turret. So there are multiple members of Cincinnati Fear looking to roam onto him. Maddie's going to have to find a way to get out of here. Throws down the subjugate onto Dragoon.
Oh.
They're going to look to just focus on down the gangplank. They will be able to pick up that kill onto Dragoon. Now looking to move forward onto Blaze. Crimson trying to sustain through, but can't find a target to auto-attack. DNA gets some good damage across, though. It is going to be able to execute down Blaze across the wall. And the Rift Herald recall nets Maddie a free passage back to the base. It's a 2-for-1. Meanwhile, the dive breaking out in the bottom lane. There's going to be a TP, though, coming in from DNA once again. Sketch is going to go on a killing spree as he finishes off onto Scary Jerry, and he's going to be able to rocket jump his way over the wall. Another successful bot lane play for Cincinnati Fear. Just can't be responded to by TA.
It looked really good there in the top lane. A slight blunder actually from Can't Off Roll. I think he autoed the blast cone and sent himself backwards there in that fight to start off. So already early on, they were able to burst on the target. A nice recall thanks to the Rift Herald, like you mentioned. They didn't drop that one down. Still sitting on the ability to take some plates here. But meanwhile, in the bottom lane, this is not what you want to happen for your Lucian Nami. Tristana and Leona being able to dive Scary Jerry and Tsum here on their own without help is awful for this dominant, or for what is supposed to be a very dominant bot lane, and we might have another fight here in the mid.
Yeah, now breaking out here,
Whoa.
it is going to be Trickster forced to use that Stormbringer to get himself out of the stun. The Rift Herald is going to get the crash off, 160 gold each into the pockets of Maddie and DNA. Now, DNA gonna have to be very careful, has dropped down pretty low. They know the Stormbringer is down, though, and he feels confident in his ability to take trades up against Blaze.
Not too much of a worry here. He does have Tsum as the Wambulance support running into mid lane here, healing up Demon Brand's health bar, making sure he can stay in lane to at least take this wave and not lose too much off this back.
Yeah, but what they might lose is the Dragon coming up here in about a second. Scary Jerry, once again in a very scary position. He is now left alone underneath this turret, has been dove under this very turret multiple times already this game. Sitting at 0-4, hasn't been able to complete his mythic item. Not where you want to be on the Lucian, and has to be very, very concerned about the potential to get dove again. You can see he's playing very far back, waiting for Tsum to be able to come up and support him. This Dragon is just going to go over to Cincinnati Fear.
Just with that innate knowledge that you have, Dragon is spawning, enemy has advantage in the area, all of my teammates are in base. I'm sitting here by my tower and just kind of waiting, hoping the wave moves towards me at some point so I can somewhat safely take it. But even under towers, like we've seen, Cincinnati Fear is continuously just putting the fear into this bottom lane, doing everything they can to make sure that Lucian just can't get any farm and has no path back into the game.
Yeah, and they're trying to claim control over the bottom side of the map as well, clearing out some of the vision that TA has put down defensively on their blue side. Let's see what they can get back on the top lane. There's going to be the package thrown down in the mid lane. Blaze a little bit too far up, though. Takes a big trade. Almost finishes off onto DNA. The big one is dodged away, and that's going to be a nice laser to close out the kill. But now the collapsing members of Cincinnati Fear are going to be able to turn it into a 1-for-1. Meanwhile, the first turret goes towards the side of Team Ambition. They secure it for Crimson with a little bit of an assist from Maddie. It's a 1-for-1 in the mid lane, and that's actually where Trickster chose to dedicate his attention. This is a win for Team Ambition.
Overall, yeah, absolutely. Managing to shore up some of the gold lead with that first tower, like you mentioned. Sketch did, of course, claim this bottom lane tower, but I think Team Ambition is actually kind of okay with that. They were losing too much farm to that tier 1 tower because they couldn't safely play around it, and now with this wave pushing more towards them, might actually enable Scary Jerry to safely get some farm in his pocket, maybe pick up some items, and hopefully not be too far behind in the rest of this game.
Certainly going to be on the lookout for once he gets that first item finished, can at least be a little bit more competitive at that point. If it is the Gale Force, he'll get a little bit of additional mobility as well to get himself out of some of these sketchier situations, no pun intended. Doesn't look like he's going to be quite on that threshold yet, though. Just gets himself a couple more components and is heading back out onto the Rift.
Maddie gonna pick up the red buff and retreat. Good call here. Again, you kind of just look at where the people are positioned on the map. Despite not having vision, you can kind of tell if your teammates are in the area. There's a good chance the enemy team is in that piece of fog of war that you were eyeing suspiciously, so to speak, here in this red side jungle. So a nice way for Maddie to get out of that, or nice escape, a nice heads-up play for Maddie to escape from that. Now sending their own team members back into base, and you actually now have a Demon Brand hitting this tower for free in the bot lane. Might be able to pick up a tower for the side of Team Ambition early on.
Yeah, meanwhile, the Rift Herald is being focused on by Trickster. There's going to be the cannon barrage blown by Dragoon, try to provide some of that global pressure, even when he doesn't have the teleport. You know, That's actually a big win, though, for Team Ambition that we haven't even discussed that much. It's the fact that he opted for the Ignite and still ended up losing lane. You know, this is going to matter more and more as we get into the later game, and he's forced to use the Cannon Barrage as his only means to affect the map globally. This could be a big pressure point for Team Ambition to try to play that split push game, utilizing the double TP setup they have with Crimson and DNA.
Handshaking objectives across the map here, but I feel like Team Ambition is going to be the ones that are going to have to respond to this. That's a Tristana and a Rift Herald pushing on your tier 2. You have to get back here at some point to deal with that, but they are going to take their own tier 2 before the Rift Herald even collapses. Now will actually go down, so no inhibitor turrets on the docket just yet for Fear.
There's so much gold funneled into Sketch at this point. Just got himself a whole bunch of turret plates, got himself an inner turret's worth of gold here. He's at 7,800, he's 3,000 gold over Crimson, or over Scary Jerry, rather. That's completely nuts. That's a little bit of an issue, but meanwhile, this turret is going to fall on down, and they're going to try to focus on the Blaz. Can't quite get him. He will be able to escape. Scary Jerry throws out the culling, tries to get that last bit of damage, can't quite do it, but you know, DNA has got a tall task ahead of him to try to match the damage output that Sketch is going to be able to bring.
Yeah, that is a massive Tristana. Actually going for Lord Dominic second here as well. So even if you end up trying to stack some of this armor, that Tristana will be treading through you anyways. Even Brand Arc actually just getting fully engaged upon and bursted down. Sketch knows the limits of this champion. Incredibly aggressive play here coming out from this Tristana.
I caster cursed him there a little bit. Saying it's tough as DNA being the probably primary carry at this point in the game for Team Ambition to face off against Sketch, and Sketch finds the angle, just one-shots him there. Hasn't even really especially built for it. He's going for the LDR second, wants to be able to work his way through the Trundle and the Olaf, but he is more than happy to go in there and just one-shot a Victor anytime he gets the chance.
Yeah, when you have that kind of gold lead, you're just allowed to do that, and no ultimate available for Demon Brand Arc made it really hard for him to even try and trade back into that. May have even blown the W stun, I think, a little bit earlier on that wave, so no chances for damage to be returned. Demon Brand Arc, unfortunately, unable to take down Tristana here, but we don't have another fight on our hands already as Scary Jerry frontlining here on Lucian, taking quite a bit of damage.
He takes one auto and a big one and is immediately going to be chunked to below half HP as the fight is going to break out. Flux moving forward. Here comes the Stormbringer. They're trying to fight this one front to back. Currently, Maddie being able to prevent a pretty big threat, but they have lost DNA on the other side. Now a jump over the wall from Sketch. He's trying to finish off Scary Jerry, who gets out of the blast cone just in time. It's a 1-for-1 team fight. Jungler for mid laner. All in all, not too bad for Team Ambition, but they are going to be on the back foot. Teleport back from Crimson, maybe looking for a little bit more. Maddie stepping forward with the Frozen Domain. Can't get a good pillar, can't get a good bubble, and so can't get anything to follow up on for Crimson, but will at least be able to protect that mid lane outer turret.
Felt like Team Ambition was trying to play for the dragon here, teleporting back out another member to try and get back on the map and maintain some kind of tempo advantage with the 4 versus 4. And on top of that, the enemy jungler being down with Can't Alpha dead there meant that they had the smite advantage, but they just couldn't make it to the pit in time. That's Cincinnati Fear going to Soul Point here against Team Ambition.
Yeah, that's a big threat there. Giving over this Hextech Soul would definitely put a damper on the late game possibilities there for Team Ambition. So they're going to have to pull it together and get a good dragon fight here sooner rather than later, as Blaze is getting chased across the map. Cannon Barrage going to come in from Dragoon to try to present a little bit of extra assistance, but they're just not going to be able to do it. The Traffic Cone going to stop Blaze in his tracks, and they are going to donate the kill over to DNA. Wow, that's a little risky, playing with fire a little bit there, but, you know, Maddie willing to face tank the Rockets to guarantee that DNA gets this gold.
Nice look there in the bottom lane. I mean, they really do need to get this gold onto one of their higher range damage targets. Oh, Tsum.
Tsum flashes right back in to the Volibear, trying to turn around a little bit of damage. Actually, the turret shots are still coming through. Crimson going to be able to pick up that kill, and now Sketch getting chunked out very low from the culling. Crimson wants to chase him the rest of the way. Maddie coming in on the other side. If they can find a lockdown onto this Tristana, it would be huge. There's going to be the Traffic Cone. No jump available. Shut down for Scary Jerry, who can keep chasing onto Plux to try to get himself another kill. He's going to be right back into this game as he can pick up that shutdown and maybe wants to even get a little bit more while he's at it. 11-10 on the scoreboard, but Team Ambition takes the gold lead for the first time this game.
The rumors of Scary Jerry's demise were greatly exaggerated. Finding a nice shutdown there onto Sketch doesn't exactly equalize the 3k gold lead Sketch has managed to build up, but certainly helps shore up the weaknesses of Team Ambition's comp at this time. A whole lot more damage going to be towards this Lucian. Scary Jerry, despite this lead, finding a few kills here and there is going to help their team come back and find some of these objectives for themselves.
Yeah, the primary carry is still going to be DNA, but now getting some extra gold into this Lucian, completing the second item, means that you can have a little bit of a secondary carry in Scary Jerry, if you will.
Let's call it a 5-head play from Teasman to flash into the enemy team and keep them under tower long enough for Scary Jerry to pick up some damage there. Now looking a little bit aggressively towards this mid lane. It's actually Team Ambition with this mid lane turret. I've talked about this before. Actually, in a VOD review I did for Scary Jerry's team a while back on Converse. When mid lane turret is alive and you're trying to play split pushers, it really nullifies your ability to actually move anywhere past the halfway point on the rivers on the map. If you're Dragoon here now in this top lane, you have to keep wards, or you have to place down more wards on this top side jungle to make sure you're actually staying safe, because so many flank angles open up as soon as you walk past where this mid lane turret is on the map.
And definitely a risk to keep in mind. Crimson still at a solid lead. His scoreline doesn't show it quite as much as he's donated a lot of the kills over to Maddie and or Scary Jerry, but he's very strong here with the Stride Breaker and the Death Stance already completed, and is so sticky on this Olaf, can do so much to just keep on top of targets, and that's exactly what you want to do up against something like the Corki or something like the Tristana. This last pick Olaf continuing to pay off dividends for Team Ambition.
Doing a great job here in the side lane. You do see the advantage he just has over this Gangplank, and we do have a Frozen Heart online, by the way. I'm so happy to see it. Not on the Olaf, it did get built on the
Listening to the
Trundle.
stream.
Yeah, there we go. Taking build advice from the casters, but Frozen Heart here can be super effective at slowing down some of Sketch's damage against anyone that Maddie is standing next to. And of course, with triple 80 threats here, just lowering the attack speed of that entire team is very helpful.
They are going to finally lose their mid lane outer turret. It was a long, hard-fought battle. They do eventually tie up the score at 4-4 in turrets, but now Pluck's getting a little bit caught here. They're going to try to chase him the rest of the way. Tidal Wave goes wide, and now the turnaround coming through from Trickster. Jump over the wall from Sketch, finds him melee range with Crimson, going to try to flash away, fails that one as well. Going to be forced to jump over the wall. Shut down onto Scary Jerry, picked up by Dragoon, though. Shut down onto Maddie, picked up at the same time. DNA will be able to trade one back here, but it's a 2-for-1 team fight in favor of Cincinnati so far. But the chase down onto Plux, double kill for DNA. Looking to finish off onto Blaze. One more tick will be able to do it, but they just can't find it, and it's actually Sketch who's popping off in the back line, gets himself a double kill as he finishes off DNA right after Tsum, and it's Crimson is the last one standing, has no team left, has nowhere left to go, just has to recall back to the base.
That's Dragon in 14 seconds. This has to be going over to Fear. A nice prize for that team fight victory. You saw Sketch sitting there in the wings, kind of playing this will he, won't he game over the side of the wall. Let's watch this one more time. It was Sketch initially jumping in a little bit possibly too aggressive, finding Crimson in melee range like you mentioned, Maddie just whacking away at the ADC, forced back over the wall. Maddie did a really good job staying alive here with this Trundle. You saw him just kite out for as long as possible. Meanwhile, Demon Brand Arc was doing what he needed in this fight, finding a few kills here and there, zoning everyone out. A nice big one lands though, and that was all they really needed here. Goes a little bit too aggressive into the choke, and just like that, Sketches over the wall, and it is all over for everyone who was left alive.
One more tick on the Blaze that would have done it, but he just couldn't quite get it all the way there. And Sketch managing to stay alive. A little bit of a sketchy flash there, but he does get the reset on the rocket jump and can get himself back over the wall to safety. A very close game all around, though. 2k gold lead in favor of Cincinnati Fear, but the big difference maker is going to be that Hextech Soul that fight win secures for them.
Yeah, that's certainly gonna hurt. A whole lot of AoE damage now being brought out. These rockets hurt a whole lot more from Blase. One big one connecting, and that's just so much damage to your entire team.
Yeah, it's really going to be tough here, especially once that Tristana starts to scale later into the game, gets that additional range, already outranges the Lucian by a substantial amount, and it's only going to get worse as those last 4 levels start to come through for Sketch. It's really going to need to be big AoE team fighting potential coming through from this Victor, and huge chase downs from Maddie and Crimson if they want to find their way into this game and into a victory circle. They're moving their way towards the Baron for right now. Fear has the priority.
Still looking, sweeping out. There is a chance Fear just kind of goes for a crazy engage here with that AoE ultimate from Dragoon. Can just drop that down, allow your team to run on in, and Crimson actually taking quite a bit of damage over the wall here as one big one connects, and you see the arc go through the entire roster. This is a threatening position here for Team Ambition.
Yeah, now they're focusing in on DNA. He's going to be forced into the stasis right away, but what about the turnaround? Crimson trying to fight his way through, has found his way onto Blaze, will be able to trade 1-for-1, but they just melt through DNA and Scary Jerry. The gangplank damage is just too high. Maddie trying to find his way out of here will get flash Zenith bladed by Plux, and that's going to be a very close to an ace for Team Fear. They get themselves 4 kills for 1 and are ready to move on to the Baron. Tsum, the last one standing for Team Ambition.
You're just asking yourself, where was the damage for Team Ambition in this fight? You just see the health bars go down so much quicker for Ambition than the side of Fear. They were sitting in the wings this entire time, just biding their time, and finally found the option to pull the trigger. It was a really good wave here, actually, from Tsum to knock up 4, but despite landing really good crowd control, they're still just losing this fight. All in from these front line, can't off-roll, and Plux goes straight to the back line and just start whacking targets. Dragoon goes basically untouched this entire fight. Sketch nearly goes down, but just not enough damage coming out from this entire roster to take him down.
And DNA drops with Chaos Storm still off cooldown. He doesn't get the opportunity to use it. The chain CC is too clean. And a great pick from Cincinnati Fear there to shut down that carry mid laner. You've got to believe that that team fight could have swung in such a different direction if they had had that extra source of consistent damage while he was in the stasis.
Now we're at the point of the game where really, I don't think Team Ambition has it in them to win a team fight. You're going to have to look for one of these crazy picks on the side lane and snowball that. We've got another fight here already.
Lockdown onto Plux, looking to root down DNA once again, and he is going to drop a second time, but this time he gets to use the Chaos Storm and will be able to trade back with Trickster, but Plux is in the back line, and the damage is coming in from far away with Sketch and Blaze able to land that poke damage and chunk out onto Tsum. It's a 2-for-1 fight with Team Fear still in control, looking to take down some more inner turrets and ready to break open the base.
Yeah, that 1-for-1 trade would have bought him a bit of time, but going 2-for-1 is massive for Fear here. They can just continue to utilize this Baron buff on 2 different lanes. Gangplank there in the bottom lane. They send 3 to try and defend mid, but they got Sketch here. I don't think this tower is going to long for the world.
Yeah, they're trying to get the slows in there. The chomps are effective for Maddie, but they just don't have the follow-up. Crimson has dropped too low and has got to head back underneath the turret. They've both got frozen hearts now. They're trying their darndest to get their way through onto these carries, but they just can't get through at this point. Big TP, though, from DNA, looking to find a way to flank onto these remaining members. Plux finds them and slows them down with a big solar flare. Will they be able to collapse the rest of the way? The slow is so substantial there from that glacial augment, but they're using the Hex Gates to try to get DNA farther behind the enemy team. Coming in with a huge flank angle from the Tri-Brush, finds his way onto all 3, has to avoid the Zenith Blade from Plux. Here comes Trickster on the other side, on the Volibear, looking for the lockdown. They focus forward onto Dragoon. He's going to be the first one to melt down. Maddie picks up that shutdown. They pick up Plux as well with the side of Scary Jerry. Flash in from Sketch Dreams, though. He wants to get himself all of the damage. He shuts down onto Tsum, and he's looking to move forward onto the rest of the team. Crimson going to be the next one to drop. The resets are coming through, and it's a triple kill for Trickster at the end of it all. Cincinnati Fear take the fight 5-for-2.
Massive fight for Cincinnati Fear. That chase went so incredibly long. Sketch had time to base and then walk back with the fresh buy. I believe it was the Phantom Dancer and Stopwatch. Didn't even really need him in this fight, as it was Team Ambition that burned everything they had earlier on in this fight. Sketch had no threats to face off against him until those cooldowns had cycled, and now the game in their hands. The Nexus turrets melting here for Cincinnati Fear. They'll be going undefeated on their first day.
Moving up to that 2-0 bracket, the same as they started in OQ number 1. Huge win for Cincinnati Fear here, going to be just 1 win away from securing themselves a berth into the second Proving Grounds qualifier. Team Ambition will drop to 1-1, but no shame there. By any means, a great
really
showing from the squad today. A very
again, that finalist team from that last open qualifier. I think really for me the big takeaway from this game was Scary Jerry having that really good game in the first game when they played around the Seraphine, and then here in game 2, DNA absolutely popping off on Victor despite the loss. Still looked really, really good here for Team Ambition. And of course, Crimson and that role swap, I mean, it's looked solid all the way through. So there's good components in this roster and just not able to win out on the day against Cincinnati Fear.
No, and it's a young team too. I mean, I brought this up on the Team Ambition podcast yesterday to be released pretty soon. That the biggest concern I had for this roster coming into today is that I think they are a top 16 seed, right? And rightfully so. Based on the players on this team, should be considered a team that's expected to make the main event. But the risk is that they're a pretty much brand new roster. These guys have not played together very much beyond Maddie and Tsum, and they're playing up against teams that have been together for a whole split, or sometimes, like in the case of Bay State College, even longer. So that was what I was really concerned about seeing. How are they going to be able to synergize, given how recently they were put together, to actually be able to come through and win games? And I think I saw that a lot, even in the loss against Cincinnati Fear today, and that makes me really excited coming into day 2.
Yeah, looking extremely powerful here in this game too. I mean, I think that they even I would say that their game looked cleaner here, despite the plays in bot lane kind of not really going their way. They were consistently cross-mapping Cincinnati Fear in that top side, making Rift Herald plays, making top lane dives happen while their bot lane was losing, as we need to do in games like this. If one side loses, you have to make plays on the opposite.
Yeah, and they did that really effectively. I love to see Crimson and Maddie coming together to play around the top side. It was a little bit of a different look than what we saw in game number 1, and it seemed to work out for them very well. Glad to see DNA bounce back after what was a pretty rough game 1. So all in all, glad to see Scary Jerry bounce back after what was a terrible early game. He found his way into these fights and was still able to have an impact in some of the later game fights. So let's short up some of that early game laning phase on the Lucian and Nami, and I think this team has a really solid shot coming into some of these team fights up against the Cincinnati Fear, and that's where you want to be. I mean, Cincinnati Fear, they're the team to beat in this tournament, if anybody is, other than maybe 100 Thieves next. They were the finalists last time around. They are the toughest competition that you could expect to find at this point, and they played against them pretty well.
Yeah, overall, a great showing here for both Team Ambition rosters, ending up 1-1 on the day. Looking forward to these games tomorrow. We got a whole 3 games to go, 2 to qualify for both these rosters. See if they can pull it off tomorrow.
Absolutely will, and we are going to be here for all 3 of those games tomorrow. Stay tuned to the TA Twitter, find out who the matchup's going to be, and come right back here, the exact same time, 6 Eastern tomorrow, where we will take to the Rift for game number 3, 4, and 5, and find out if Team Ambition are going to be making it on to that main stage for the second Proving Grounds qualifier of summer. But for tonight, that is going to do it. So thank you all for tuning in. Check out some of those other streams that are still going on. And from myself, Solpan, and Emma on production, have a great night.
Support system on the rear. Face front, come say so.
Hey, back doors all clear.
Chain tie, can't play no.
Well fed, we eatin'.
The motto is to push for it, the ops stay to wuss for it. Like matter of fact, we creeping, now we sneaking. Enemy highs, we be seeking. Lurk at the waters and bushes, oh man. Cold eyes, we deepen. All of you die, one at a time. Those are the facts, we don't talk dice. Ready to fire, ready or not, we letting it gone. Bang, 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 bang. Wake up, we want war. Y'all know what time it is. Paint red on this ground floor. All we throw is fists. To the core we lit. Rain down abyss. Set it up like this.
Set it off like this. Set it off like. Set it off like this. Set it off like. Set it off like this. Set it off like. Set it off like this. Burn it up, burn it up.
Set it off like this. Set it off like. Set it off like this. Set it off like. Set it off like this. Set it off like. Set it off like this. Burn it up, burn it up.
Too many enemies, too many enemies. Too many enemies. Yeah, too many enemies, too many enemies. Enemies, too many enemies, too many enemies. Yeah. 조금 밑에 모여봤자 니니 이 몸만 된. 형 이겼으니 형 오늘 좀 거만해. 빠질 테니 한 대 때려 시원하게. 때려봤자 넌 내 손 안에. 살려줄게요 소 가능하다면 안 해주면 내 심장이나 상처. Yeah, what? Wait. 연구만 있어 잘 그려려면 안 해주면 바로 매부 비상형. Go riders, go riot, gasoline lighters, more fire. Ski tires, blow up dynamite, need more wires. 너의 샤에 드리고 검은 쭉 갈까 일어나면 그렇게 만들어 뼈화를.
Go riders, go riot, gasoline lighters, more fire. Skid tires, blow up dynamite, need more wires. 너의 샤에 드리고 검은 조용할 거야 일어나면 그렇게 만들어 뼈화를. Set it off like this, set it off like. Set it off like this.